Charlotte, an honest person, recently activated the system. As a result, the person he encountered would awaken deep uneasiness in his heart. During the war, his comrades shouted that the intelligence was wrong. The battle was fierce. Charlotte was against the operation from start. The warriors screamed that they were being used as bait. Everything changed when he discovered that he was missing from this battle. The demon wondered if this man embodied courage. Baring her sharp teeth, she tore the man to pieces, declaring him beneath her king. The fallen girl urged Charlotte to flee. As the war intensified, he did not have to worry about her. Charlotte, a level F brave, insisted he was no hero. He replied that he was there to protect the city. How could he run now? Watching the chaos unfold, Charlotte assured her partner that there was no need to worry. He would handle the demon. The demon, bored, noticed that people were weak, and she was losing interest in him. Charlotte said it was a fight, and he wouldn't run away. Suddenly his partner looked at him, asking if he was bleeding. Charlotte froze. His body could not resist. There was no question of fighting. He had to run. The gargoyles turned to the princess, pointing to another fool standing there, waiting to die. The princess immediately ordered her warriors to kill him and rushed at Charlotte herself. Fearless Charlotte waited for the enemy to approach. The princess vowed to turn his head into a wine goblet for her beloved king. Out of nowhere, a system appeared, declaring its love for villains, and created a protective sphere around its master. The princess, her eyes burning with rage, rushed to kill him, but crashed into the barrier, unable to reach him. Undeterred, she broke through the defense with her claws and grabbed Charlotte by the back of the head. As she approached, she bared her teeth, roaring and showing off her strength. The system announced, "Kiss complete. Attack increased by 100 points." Charlotte realized that this system could permanently improve his combat skills. His partner, wide-eyed, asked what he was doing. The gargoyle approached, questioning the princess's actions. Charlotte did not allow them to attack, swinging her sword and, strangely, locking lips with the princess. The princess snapped back to reality, her eyes wide, and she quickly backed away. Charlotte wiped the drool from his face, glaring at the enemy who had kissed him. The princess was confused. What was going on? She was going to kill him. So why did she kiss him? She wondered if she was possessed by a ghost. Charlotte stated that he would do anything to protect the people of the city, even if it meant his death. The monsters were gossiping that their princess had kissed a man. One of them remembered hearing that she had found a child on the street, and it seemed true. The other monster agreed, noting that he had heard the same thing, but had not thought the child was human. No wonder this man stood calmly, unafraid. An old monster came up and scolded them, calling them presumptuous fools for daring to doubt the princess's loyalty to the king. The princess panicked. The king must never know that she had kissed a man. But what was even stranger was that her heart began to beat wildly. The system showed her anxiety at 15%. Feeling no pity, she ordered her warriors to kill Charlotte. Charlotte, like a warrior, stood her ground, preparing for the onslaught of enemies. He parried the first blow, but was attacked from behind. Unable to dodge, he counterattacked. Looking at his sword, he felt it become lighter and saw that it had split from one blow. Charlotte remained alert, ready to fight despite her broken sword. The monster attacked relentlessly with an iron hammer, but Charlotte took advantage of the moment and dodged. He felt that his defense had not improved, but his attack level had increased to about 100 points. Gathering all her resolve, Charlotte struck back, shattering the monster's axe with one blow. But the attack did not stop. He suddenly felt an attack from behind. He quickly turned around and struck back, and his blow was so powerful that it sent the monster flying back several meters. His partner, amazed, noted as he threw back another opponent that this was not the power of a rank F warrior. Charlotte, upset by the attack, tried to cut the monster in half, but only grazed its torso. Suddenly, the princess herself rushed at him, attacking him with both feet. Unperturbed, Charlotte used a handguard. The impact stunned everyone, and debris flew in all directions from the site of the explosion. The monsters froze, declaring that the princess had knocked him down. One rushed to finish off Charlotte, but the princess intervened, hitting the monster with her long tail to stop it. The monster, puzzled, could not understand what the princess was doing. She ordered everyone to listen. She would not allow anyone to kill him. Was it really necessary to kill everyone who disobeyed orders? She wanted to train this man herself. The system showed her concern at 91%. The monsters roared, calling on the princess to kill him. Transforming into her monstrous form, she bared her sharp teeth and commanded the warrior to die. Charlotte looked at her aura, noticing that it had increased. The system showed that his defense had increased to 50 points. He wondered if this was the price of his power. He urged himself to fight honorably, struggling with the remorse of his actions. But all this was for the safety of the city. The princess, however, felt insulted and strangely changed. She behaved so strangely towards a man. Why? She was a master of military affairs. That was clear, but her body betrayed her. The system reported his agility at 120 points. The monster watching her noticed that the princess wanted to kill him, but felt something strange. The monster turned to the others, shouting that this was outrageous. They had to see this spectacle. The princess was looking for something in him. It would be better if he kept quiet if he did not understand. Charlotte noticed that his defense had increased by 10 points and his offense was now up to 150. He decided that his points were enough to handle the group. With a roar, Charlotte declared that the situation was changing. Clutching the broken sword, he aimed a blow at the princess's back. The monster screamed, warning the princess to be on guard. She was ready, grabbing Charlotte's hand with her tail. She squeezed his throat, refusing to let go. Charlotte realized that his strength was not enough. He struggled, but his strength wavered. The monster's eyes flashed, screaming shrilly that his thoughts were vile, and called on the princess to kill him. But the princess felt encouraged. She knew she had to restrain herself. She told Charlotte that few dared to challenge the art of war. But her mind had changed. Now she wanted to strip him naked. Unable to resist, she grabbed his clothes. She stated that by tearing them apart, people would see a huge gap between ordinary people and war beasts. At that moment, she longed to see his human body. The monster roared for the princess to punish him. Charlotte was stunned as she effortlessly tore through his armor. Suddenly, the princess reached out to him. Charlotte protested that he could not bear it and begged her to stay. But the princess felt something stirring deep in her heart, although she could still restrain herself. Charlotte saw that his defense had risen to 100 points. The princess opened her mouth again, leaning down to kiss him. Charlotte felt as if he was being crushed by an unbearable weight. The princess kissed him again, relentlessly. Charlotte felt that his current strength could not overcome them. His partner watched helplessly as Charlotte struggled. At that moment, Charlotte decided that for the safety of the city, he could sacrifice himself. Determined, he realized he needed to increase his strength. Grabbing her head, he kissed her back. The system instantly showed how his strength had increased. The spectators froze, stunned by his actions. Suddenly, a huge enemy appeared. The monster dropped his sword, turning to face the princess. She turned around, clearly agitated. When she woke up, she saw the monster and froze in horror. The system reported that the king had received a critical hit. The king demanded to know what they were doing. The system informed Charlotte that all bonus values had doubled, raising it to a high level. The enraged king vowed to kill him, and his terrifying power shook the earth. The princess pleaded with the king, insisting that it was not what he thought. She would explain everything. Charlotte tried to break free from her grip, shocked that his level had risen to such a degree. The king, ignoring their words, fired a beam from his green eyes, demanding that Charlotte leave his beloved wife alone and stay away. Using his speed, the king approached and brought his huge sword down on Charlotte. Charlotte was unable to dodge, taking the full impact. His partner asked if he was okay. Charlotte insisted that he could still hold out, noting the monster's sudden appearance and its surprisingly high attack power. The king turned to his wife, asking if she had promised that it would not happen again. Did she remember her words? Next time he would take her away. But why did she do it? The princess, unable to contain herself, objected that he was the cause. It was all because of him. Why did he arrive so late? What was he doing? Everyone was stunned, and Barrett himself was speechless. The princess repeated that it was because he was late. She almost repeated her mistake. He was guilty, but he dared to ask her questions and even threaten her. The princess hurried, scolding him for not coming for so long. What had he been doing all this time? Frustrated, she turned away from her husband. Barrett begged her not to be angry, admitting his mistake. He had seen the men running away and had gone to deal with them. He vowed that it would never happen again, admitting that he was indeed wrong. The monster noting for the others that their king was deeply devoted to the princess. He would bow and admit his mistakes, probably only to a cruel woman like her. The second monster chuckled, saying that he was not like the king. He would rather remain a bachelor. The third, inspired, declared that tomorrow he would confess his love to Miss Satter. Charlotte, taking advantage of the moment, planned to slip away while they were distracted. The gap in power between him and the monsters was too great. The princess, still upset, cried. Barrett consoled her, urging her not to cry, as it was breaking his heart. Charlotte asked her partner if she could walk or if he should carry her. She replied that she only had an injured leg. She would manage. The princess complained that Barrett's lateness had forced her to seduce the man, which had almost marred their pure, devoted love. Barrett, unable to comfort her, begged her to stop crying, taking all the blame on himself. He vowed to kill the man to ease his concubine's grief. The princess embraced her husband, confirming that he was right and that he was the love of her life. Even in death, they would face oblivion together. How could she love another? Barrett growled at the monsters, calling them fools. The enemy was running away. Were they going to stop them? The monster told the king that the princess had ordered them not to interfere. Barrett roared, calling them mindless fools. The relentless Barrett launched an attack, smashing through the rocks that threatened to crush him. Charlotte warned him he was coming. Barrett landed in front of him, screaming that he would kill him. Barrett demanded to know how he dared to seduce his beloved concubine by crashing into Charlotte. Unable to dodge, Charlotte took the full brunt of the blow. The princess felt a pang of pity as he fell. Charlotte felt his ribs break. He couldn't fight off their attacks. Barrett's speed was overwhelming. He was no match for him. Barrett struck again, vowing to tear him in half as punishment for seducing his concubine. Charlotte realized he had no choice but to level up. But his system was locked. Resigned to death, he prepared for the end. But the princess struck Barrett, ordering him to spare the man. A stunned Barrett could not understand why his concubine would save the man who had seduced her. Charlotte, seeing this, realized that he had to run. Barrett asked his concubine why. Why did she hit him? He pressed. Did she feel sorry for this man? While Charlotte was running, the system notified him that he had increased his level. Charlotte asked himself if he could defeat him if he fought him now. He was level 1000 after all. But Charlotte decided that it would be better to talk to him from a safe distance. The princess was drooling and saying that she really wanted this human body. Barrett caught the concubine and asked what she was talking about. She had just said herself that she loved him more than anyone in the world. Let her not go there. But the princess tore her hand away and ran after the guy, screaming that she didn't want to put up with this anymore. The princess rushed at the boy and said that she wanted to be freed. Charlotte could not run away and let herself be caught by her. The system informed the boy that his survival rate had increased to 180. Charlotte realized that now he could only allow her to control him. Barrett screamed at the princess that it was all because he wasn't good enough and everyone was taking advantage of him. It was his fault. He was going to kill him now, and then he would go back to normal life. The princess looked at him and screamed at him to get out of here and not bother them. Barrett didn't want to take all this into account and shouted at her not to do it. But suddenly his partner ran up and shouted at the princess to let him go. Charlotte shouted at Bella not to touch her. It was too dangerous. The princess stopped her from attacking and grabbed her with her tail. The princess did not let the boy go and used him for her own interests. She began to kiss him and wondered why she did not feel the same as before. And so deeply, she had never had a hint of joy. Barrett looked at them at that moment and said, "She lied to him. She deceived." Barrett lost his temper and said he wasn't ready to give up, and he attacked her and wanted to kill her. The princess raised her head and looked at him with strange eyes. But she stood up and told him to stop. He still loved her. The princess replied that she would not stop and would continue to do whatever she wanted. Barrett was devastated. After all, her beloved concubine had cheated on him, and the system reported that the Demon King had shut down again, self-destructing. The princess asked him what he was planning. The monsters told her that it was not her fault, and they also thought that maybe they should disobey the order and run away from here. At this time, the system informed the guy that the level had been increased to 10 and a new skill had been unlocked. Charlotte decided to take advantage of the opportunity, grab her sword, and cut off the king's head. The system states that after killing the king, his body would turn into a shadow and teleport in a circle within a 5-meter radius of the enemy, dealing a devastating attack. The princess stood next to the king's body and couldn't believe it. But Charlotte realized that if he continued pumping, he would gain more skills. The princess said he had never done that before. He should have been calmer the second time. Why did he faint then? But suddenly Barrett woke up and pounced on the princess with both hands. The princess did not expect this and took him in her arms. Charlotte's partner fell, and the princess held the king in her arms and was having difficulty. Barrett told the princess to keep her promise and die with him. The princess replied that she would not do so. The system said Barrett was going to die. The princess screamed at him to let her go. Charlotte decided to help the princess and, coming up behind her, swung her sword and slashed the king across the back. The princess was dropped from the hands of the king, who tried to drag her away with him to the other world. Barrett was left without a head, and with his last breath, he was turning to his beloved. Suddenly something happened, and Charlotte, with her partner, and the princess moved to another place. When he landed on the ground, Charlotte thought he had fallen to the bottom of a dungeon. He saw that there was some strange animal lying on him. The system said that this animal's name is Yu-Ge, and she is a linling lizard, and her health level is 9. His partner also came to his senses and turned to Charlotte with a headache. The system showed him that the Demon King was dead, and the reward was received, a map of Night's underground city. Charlotte immediately thought, what card? He wondered whether he should accept this card or not. Now he had to think carefully. Suddenly Bella raised her body and looked at Charlotte. She stepped aside and apologized to him. Charlotte thought for a moment and commanded the system to open the map. He looked at the map and saw the paths, traps, resources depicted, and all the rooms were disabled. Charlotte was delighted and shouted, "Great! Now we can go to the boss's room without worrying about getting lost." Bella asked him what he was talking about and what he saw. Charlotte decided not to tell her and answered that nothing. And now it turns out he's the only one who can see the system. Charlotte lifted Bella up and said they had to go. Suddenly Charlotte felt very sick. He felt like he had something inside him. He fell to his knees and started vomiting. Bella was surprised and asked him what was wrong with him, but the liquid he vomited was sucked into his hand. Charlotte suddenly felt a strong pain and even raised her hand so that the pain spread throughout her body. Charlotte was in pain. He couldn't stand it anymore. He was writhing in intense pain. Bella watched his suffering and decided to hug him. But Charlotte felt his back bleeding at the same time. And you can't rub against the ground. His body is so hot, like he's on fire. Suddenly everything went wrong and his finger got burned. After so much suffering, Charlotte stopped screaming and began to slowly regain consciousness. Charlotte says it's okay and it's over. And he's fine. Bella asks him what's happening to his body. Why is it melting? Charlotte realized that he had been poisoned. Warcraft had attacked the city about half a year ago. He saw several monsters fighting a hero from the guild, and they grabbed the box. And with that box, the monster wounded him. But he was shaken, and their fight was in ruins. The box was cut open, and the slowly liquid chicken fell to the ground. Soon blood poured from the sky. Suddenly he felt a strong smell, and now he might even vomit. But the guy couldn't hold the box in his hands for long and, feeling pain, threw it on the ground. The monsters around him were screaming that their bodies were melting. He was in a pile of rocks, and then the bloody rain didn't hit him. And his back hurt like hell, like it was melting. But he was poisoned by this disgusting smell. And when he woke up, he was already in the hospital. The doctor said that he had a maximum of a year to live. But the system appeared in front of him and showed that the blood of the demon god was the antidote. Charlotte was surprised and did not understand what it was. The system told him to log in and become a player. He would receive hints on how to obtain the blood of the demon god. And now he had a choice whether to agree or not. He soon learned what poisoning was. Right in this underground city. Charlotte said they had to go. There was a room with clothes and tools. They would go there first. But they were not the only ones in the dungeon. A group of warriors were on the alert and waiting for the moment to fight. Suddenly the dungeon trap is triggered and Captain Tyr orders everyone to retreat. And there is a chance. But the trap was so unexpected that a ray of sunlight hit his ally right in the head. Tyr told everyone not to move. And if they move, it will trigger other mechanisms. And even Claude, who had the strongest armor of all, agreed to have his head shot off. The warriors asked how they could get through then. Tyr said no one else would get through. They finally got there. But they can't go back. Sirius came up to them and said that these are the old rules. And this rule has the lowest rank. But one of the members of the Crusader team, the soldier Ma Koei, decided to run away. But Sirius stood in front of him and told him to go and find the right way. And he must know the consequences of disobeying orders. Tyr came and stopped Sirius, saying that he had made an arrow that could fly both backwards and forwards. Let him explore the path first, discover at least one mechanism. Then he will increase his survival rate. But Sirius did not like it, and he immediately cut the ball with his sword. Sirius told him to let him look at the notes he had made again. Otherwise, he would kill him. Tig was very upset when he said this, and even let go of his hand. But Sirius told Kuyuz to get up and explore the path. Kuei slowly rose to his feet, but they could not hold him. For fear was beyond his strength and covered him completely. Kuei continued his way and slowly took step by step, trying to survive in this place. He took another step and thought that he missed the mechanism. But then he stayed where he was and wondered where to step. He had two choices, either to the right or to the left. Sirius was already angry and asked him what he was doing. Tell him not to waste time and go faster. Kuei, with sweat on his face, took a chance and made his move. Seeing that everything was fine, he sighed with joy. Sirius stood behind him the whole time and said that it was not bad. Let him continue. Kuei told himself that he could die. And he would die, but suddenly his legs gave out, and he almost fell to the ground. Kuei screamed that he didn't want to die, and that he would return home. But the mechanism malfunctioned, and he was left without a head. The warriors were surprised, and said that this time the attack was from below. Maybe the arrangement of the mechanisms is always different? And what's worse, the attack always comes out of the blue. It's impossible to predict where it's coming from. Sirius decided to involve all his people in this journey and ordered the lowest in rank to set off immediately. Suddenly someone told Captain Sirius that the door was open. Charlotte came out and asked how they got there. The warriors immediately told the captain that it was a decoy team. Sirius believed that all decoys should be killed. This guy disobeyed his orders. How did they even appear? Tyr saw Bella and asked if she was okay. Sirius told the guy he was an idiot, and why were they still alive? Charlotte suddenly remembered that the day before they left, they had put a sword to his face and told him to tell her everything. How did he know the color of his wife's panties? Charlotte tells him that he is training his intuition for the next fight. She allows him to guess the colors of the objects around him. It was serious, and he wanted to kill him. He was yelling at the guy to talk. What kind of relationship did he have with his wife? Otherwise, he would have killed him right there. The other warriors held their captain and told him to calm down. It is forbidden to kill people in the city. Charlotte said that she would never allow him to slander him and compromise his integrity. Now he will show him the results of his training. Charlotte immediately said who had what kind of underwear on their bodies. The warriors were surprised that he had guessed everything. The warrior immediately told the captain that he agreed to kill him immediately. The other guy replied that he was not guessing. He could not be killed in the city. If someone found the body, there would be trouble. Sirius asked him, and what did he suggest? The warrior replied that it would be better to send him to the distraction team. No need to kill. Charlotte realized he was going in circles and changing gears. How could they possibly meet this team? They were lost. Sirius turns to Charlotte and tells him to go, and as team captain, he orders him to go. Charlotte realized that the captain wanted the lower crew members to explore the trail, but Tyr shouted at him not to move. Tyr told the captain that since they had made it there alive, they should simply follow their path and avoid the trap. The crew should not take any risks. Sirius said that they had spent dozens of valuable combat team members to destroy the dungeon rank boss. There was no time to retreat, and he does it for the team, and if Tyr doesn't like it, maybe he'll go and show the way himself? Sirius asked the boy if he hadn't been practicing his instincts. It was time to contribute to the team. He had to remember the consequences of disobeying orders. The system told him the map was open. Bella screamed at Charlotte not to go. There was something wrong with this road, and they'd better find another way or another road. Charlotte said that the captain has already given the order. He must go. Don't worry, he will be fine. The warriors began to shout that he was coming, and he, without hesitation, took the first step. He simply relied on his intuition. The system told him to go forward 3 squares, then left 2 squares. Charlotte followed the system and went. The warrior said that he took 3 steps and nothing happened. He was very lucky. Perhaps a few more steps and it would have been over. But Charlotte went further and said to go left and 2 squares. The warrior shouted that he did it. He took another step. Charlotte went through like a 1-2 punch. Everyone couldn't believe he could do it, and they asked him if he knew the right way. Tyr asked the warrior where from. Information about the terrain of the first half of the dungeon would cost the lives of a dozen scouts. Suddenly Charlotte was already at the end of the path, and the warriors got scared and shouted. He started jumping. That's it. Now luck awaits him. Charlotte was playing hard at this point and almost lost his balance on his final jump shot. Sirius looked at him and wondered why the mechanism hadn't worked. The system had told the boy at that moment that he needed to go 5 cells forward. Charlotte was already happy that he was almost at the end, but the warriors looked at it and believed that he could do it. The system told him that he had reached the end of the road. The warriors said that the guy was unharmed, and the mechanism never failed. Was it luck? And he really relies on intuition to bypass all the mechanisms. Charlotte said that this is the result of his training. It is not his and Xueqin's fault. But Sirius didn't believe him and put his sword next to Charlotte's head. He couldn't believe that it was a lucky coincidence. These things are nothing but luck. Sooner or later it will end. And Sirius said that then he will move on. A moment later, Charlotte looked down at her feet and saw a mushroom standing nearby. The system told him it was a blue Warcraft mushroom, and after consumption, it gives physical strength and relieves pain. One of the side effects is diarrhea. Charlotte thought she must be hungry, and maybe she should pick some mushrooms for her. The boy chose the mushroom without hesitation. He said it smelled so good, and how sad it was that people couldn't eat it. But nothing bad would happen if you just licked it a little, right? Charlotte decided to lick the mushroom a little. Sirius suddenly saw it and asked what he had in his hands. Charlotte replied that it was a mushroom. Sirius, being a pathetic and unbearable person, immediately took it from her hands. Sirius didn't even ask what kind of mushroom it was, but immediately started eating it. And he said it as if it wasn't there. After the dungeon was captured, all the resources belonged to the guild and his squad. Sirius told him not to go alone, and to always show the way. That's an order for him. Charlotte replied that the order would be carried out. He would follow orders without question. Always go ahead of the team, never stand behind the captain. Sirius said to keep it that way. Tyr was with Bella at the time and said he didn't know she was being held hostage, and he hopes that she will be able to talk, and he, as the deputy captain of the squad, will be able to allow her to transfer to another squad. Bella said she came voluntarily. Tyr asked her why. Suddenly, she looked towards Charlotte, who said that this gate leads to the main boss, and there are dead ends around. The doctor told the girl that she had bandaged the fracture. Bella was pleased and thanked him for his help. Tyr turned to her and said that if she was just trying to protect this F-class guy, then she better join the reconnaissance squad or she might get killed. The scout squad consists of low-ranking people. They are decoys. As long as they are alive, you can spend guild resources. And the only way to get resources is to be bait. And don't be so stupid. He's B rank, and he can protect her. No need to leave him next time. Charlotte told the captain that there were no traps behind the door and that they could safely go forward. Sirius told him to go first. Sirius said it was no big deal. Doesn't he have his own fighting force or something? Why would he risk it at a time like this? Sirius ordered him to open the gates and then told his warriors to be on guard. But Sirius was actually thinking about how he should go if he got a stomach ache. Let them beware of attack. Charlotte opened the gate and stopped. The warriors said that the gate was open. Let them take precautions. Sirius suddenly couldn't take it anymore, and his stomach was really bothering him. But he also couldn't shit himself. Behind him, the warrior suddenly smelled a strange odor and wondered what it smelled like. Charlotte didn't stop and went forward. Sirius asked him what was inside, but he felt a strong pain in his stomach, and at the most an opportune time. But suddenly he thought, this must be a mushroom. This is the end. He can't move at all. Charlotte said that his observation was that there were traps everywhere. He ordered everyone to follow him and run past all the obstacles. Sirius asked for the rope in him and told him to stop. He asked the boy where he was rushing to, and that was an order for him. But the soldiers did not understand what was happening and asked, what's going on? What's going on behind you? And why are you running like that? But Sirius was already very ill and could not stand it. Behind his back, Tyr said that it was a poisonous smell. The warrior also supported him and said that he could smell it. There really are many traps here. But the warrior asked why the smell seemed so familiar to him. Sirius turned around and told them to shut up. They didn't want everyone to get poisoned. Sirius turned to the boy as he approached the door. Charlotte asked the commander, what happened? Sirius told the boy that he should have known about the side effects of these mushrooms. Did he do it on purpose? Charlotte said that he didn't know. But what's wrong with him? Sirius replied that nothing. Suddenly a warrior came up and told the commander that he must be tired. Then he could sit down and have a good rest. Sirius hit him and told him to sit down himself. They hit him hard, but it's time for them to continue on their way. But Sirius didn't stop there and told Charlotte that if he ran again, he would cut off his head. Charlotte replied that he understood. As he continued on his way, he told the others not to step on those tiles. But at that time, there was a big monster next to them who was guarding this place, but they were lucky because he was in hibernation. Charlotte pointed her finger and said that they should go there. Suddenly, the monsters woke up and went along the hidden paths. The system told the boy that he was not allowed to touch here. Charlotte thought that this must be the last test. Sirius felt that the further he went into the depths, the fewer obstacles there were. None of the traps worked. This had never happened in Warcraft before. He wondered if Charlotte herself had taken too many. But he couldn't believe his eyes. How could that be? And if Charlotte hadn't followed her squad, he probably would have eaten someone from Class D. Not to mention, he wouldn't have made it here. Charlotte told them to go quickly already, and they would soon be at the boss. Sirius saw that this guy had already reached the boss, and he didn't even have a high rank. Whether it was his luck or something else, it would end here and now. Sirius decided to kill him immediately and used his sword. But suddenly he struck the hanging rock with his sword, which was not supposed to be touched. Charlotte felt that something was wrong, and, looking up, saw that the rock was about to fall on him. Sirius thought that all the courage of an F-rank fighter would be lost because of the traps of this dungeon, and it is quite logical. Suddenly a huge monster appeared and almost killed Charlotte with its tail. Sirius was very surprised, and the monster immediately hit him on the head with its tail. The monster didn't wait long and surrounded them from all sides. But Charlotte said there was a collapse. Sirius stood up and realized that he had reacted quickly and covered himself with his sword, and he could have already died. Charlotte was on the other side, saying it was over and he was trapped. Suddenly someone appeared and asked, "Is there anyone here?" Charlotte turned around and saw a girl appear from the darkness. The stranger said that she felt sick. The warriors were surrounded by various monsters. One of them was a B-rank scorpion puppet, a shuttle puppet. Tyr told everyone to prepare for battle. But Bella felt different this time, because the sword they gave her was terribly heavy. Tyr ordered them to take out their shields and defend themselves, and not let him move. They had to block his attacks. The warriors immediately got ready and pulled out their shields. Tyr ordered the archers to run back and stand behind him, and they pulled their bows and prepared to shoot. The archers retreated and immediately aimed their arrows straight at the monster. The monster was trapped and took everything on its body. Tyr shouted at them to keep attacking. It didn't take long for the monster to get over it and unleash his trump card attacks. The attacks were so strong that the warriors could not hold their shields in their hands. Tyr felt like he had repelled all the arrows with just his powerful boss energy. As a result, the warriors' attacks were canceled and no damage was done to him. Sirius asked, wondering why they were standing still at all. Let them not fear the aura of some Warcraft boss. They can all defeat them. He does not even doubt them. There is nothing to fear, just one Warcraft boss. At this time, Charlotte, looking into the darkness, asked, "What is that sound? Is that a rumble? Is it a Warcraft boss?" But suddenly someone attacked him, and the iron tail almost touched him. Charlotte dodged and froze, like a stumbling block. Charlotte asked, "Is that a tail?" He looked up to see a huge monster flying towards him. After the first attack, Charlotte dodged and stayed out of danger. The monster was ready to tear her to pieces because he invaded his territory. Charlotte did not run away from the enemy and accepted the fight. Taking a position, he ordered the monster to take 3,190 damage from his fist. The blow was so strong that he himself did not expect it. His fist pierced the monster's chest. A voice came from the darkness and informed the boy that he had just broken one of his scorpion dolls with one blow. Charlotte realized that the antidote that could cure him of the poison was inside the boss. He can't waste his time on useless fights and people like him anymore. He has a map anyway. He just needs to get out of here quickly and leave him alone. The girl said that it didn't matter much now. He would still throw away all the things that people had touched. Shadil said she initially wanted to rip his head to pieces with the doll, but now she feels she will have to do it manually. Charlotte was surprised and realized that the Warcraft boss was a girl. He told the girl that she couldn't hurt him so easily. Shadil started laughing and asked him if he was serious. She wasn't going to lay a finger on his body. Shadil realized that she would hit him without touching him. First she would have to deal with him, and then with those people outside. Charlotte said that he's a brave knight. His duty is to protect other people, so he will stay here and fight until the end. Even if he had to use up all his remaining energy, he would finish this once and for all. Shadil immediately tried to attack and asked, "Even like this?" She put her foot on his head. She didn't play with him for long and put him down on the ground. The system told him that he was paralyzed. Shadil said he was just another boy who vastly overestimated his abilities. But Charlotte's comp percentage was 16. In another direction, the monster fought the guys and even defeated them. Tyr told them to look here. The Warcraft boss's head turned red, and it looks like their blows are working. Charlotte was on top of her the whole time and realized she was fast. Shadil said the fact that they could still walk was impressive. For a normal person, it was pretty good. But that was it. Shadil continued, and even said that Lord Nay hates it when someone enters his cave. Charlotte realized that this Warcraft boss is too strong. He won't get off that easy, but he will stop her at any cost. Charlotte didn't take any chances and licked her foot. Shadil was surprised and asked what was that. It was disgusting. He was seriously doing that to her foot. Fetishist fucking fetish. The system immediately showed that insight had increased by 220 points. At the same time, Sirius was receiving strong attacks from the other side and was losing to the monster. Bella stopped and saw that so much time had passed and they still hadn't arrived anywhere. And Charlotte was stoned too, and now they need to save him as soon as possible before he gets killed. Bella turned to Tyr and told him to cover her. She was going to help Charlotte out of the rubble. Tyr told her not to do it, but it was too late. Bella immediately ran to save her friend. She thought that she was already running to help him, and soon everything would be fine. She would help him. But the monster saw that she was trying to escape from it and began to pursue her. Bella dodged the first attack, but Tyr attacked the second and repelled it. Tyr realized that Charlotte was brave enough. Why was she so worried about him? It was just a pile of rocks. He could handle it himself. Shottle suddenly looked at her leg and saw this guy's saliva. The system immediately showed that the insight was already 340 points. Charlotte started coughing and said that he had finally gotten out. Shottle asked him how dare he get her feet dirty. She would make him pay for it. The system informed the guy that he didn't have a weapon on him, and it was impossible to use instant-cut skills. Charlotte said it was disgusting. He knew he should have brought a gun, and now all that was left was the tip of a pen. Charlotte tried his best, and suddenly the first blow he threw missed. Shottle dodged and immediately kicked him in the leg. At the moment of impact, Shottle felt that this guy's face was so soft that she even felt pleased. She didn't stop there and kept on kicking. She laughed and gave him a really good push. But the system showed him that his arousal level was 54%. Shottle grabbed her head and wondered what she was thinking. Shottle turned to her bird and said that he should help her kill this guy. This was in case the people outside managed to reach Signorne's room. She aimed the monster at him to kill him. Charlotte stood motionless, waiting for a moment to attack. Charlotte felt that, in fact, his agility would be enough to dodge her attacks. He realized that all the magical power would gather in his hands. He chose the moment and directed his attack straight at the monster. But suddenly Shottle pounced on the guy again, grabbed his head with her legs, pressed him to the ground, and stood over him. Shottle said that she managed to catch him again. And this time he will not escape from her. She will strangle him with her feet. But suddenly everything changed dramatically. Charlotte did not stop and regretted that she could not feel the strength of his hand. He hugged her so tightly that she even started screaming. The system immediately showed that the protection was 130 points. Shottle couldn't stand it and jumped off him. But then she stepped right on his head with her foot. Shottle told him not to dare use his disgusting hands. He touched her leg too. Shottle suddenly used her monster and, releasing the handcuffs, pinned him to the ground without blocking his hands. Charlotte realized that he had just cut off Z-Way's scorpion tail. She was pushing him so hard, and he didn't think he could dodge it now. Shottle said she would crush his head now. All this time the system showed that everything was increasing. Shottle felt very strange. Her heart became more and more pleased with the fact that she was stepping on him with her foot, as if she wanted to step on his entire body. She was bursting with interest. And their entire human race deserves to be under her feet. Meanwhile, on the other side, the warriors were fighting another monster. Tyr said that the Warcraft boss seems to be getting tired, losing his grip, and they need to try harder. They will all win, right? Shatter stepped on it again and felt a pleasant sensation. The system showed that her arousal level was 89%. Tyr yelled at Bella to be careful. There was a scorpion's tail following her. Bella didn't expect this, and suddenly saw a scorpion's tail in front of her. But she couldn't dodge it and was attacked. Tyr was scared for Bella after that. Bella hit the wall and couldn't move. Sirius looked back and saw that she was still alive. But Charlotte was telling the girl to stop at that moment, and it wouldn't work. Scorpio didn't stop there, and with his tail, he headed to attack Sirius. And he realized that this time he was here. Sirius suddenly managed to dodge, but used his sword to protect himself. He realized how long the tail had to be to hit the wall, and he realized that this Warcraft boss's level surpassed the most outstanding bosses in every way. Amazing. Shadow was saying at that moment that she had such a good and tender feeling, and it was too wonderful for her. The system immediately showed that the level of arousal was already 95%. Sirius continues to fight, but suddenly sees a scorpion attacking him from behind. He immediately understands that things are bad, but he doesn't pay attention to it. His claws are attacking. Too late. There is no escape. He will have to take the blow. Shottel had the guy on her feet the whole time, and her face was so red that she couldn't stay on her feet. Scorpius grabbed Sirius and pinned him against the wall, but he saw that he had succeeded and stopped him. Sirius used his tricks and said that it was a meeting for them, and that was the one he gave him, and he cut him into small pieces with his sword. Scorpion couldn't stand it and fell in battle. The warriors shouted that the captain had leveled up and become so strong. He knocked the Warcraft boss down with one blow. Now, their captain is definitely in A rank. Shottel was still excited, and the system showed that she had already reached 98%. The warriors on the other side shouted that they had overthrown the Warcraft boss. That's what they had given him, and all this thanks to the mighty strength of the captain. And now they don't have to be afraid of Warcraft bosses, and they will always call their captain. He will show them all. Sirius only realized that this boss was weak overall. He could still win. Sirius ordered the warriors to disperse. He will deal with this himself, and let everyone watch and see the true power of an A-rank captain. Shottel wondered what was wrong with her and what was going on. And doing these things with a real human body, she felt like she just needed to calm down. But Charlotte was also surprised and saw that her body was so flexible, especially her legs. If she continued to press on his body, it would not hold up. Charlotte shouted to the girl that this would not happen to him. He opened his mouth and licked her feet again. Charlotte started making strange sounds, but Shottel didn't like it and said that she didn't even want to hear his disgusting sounds. Everything went so smoothly that Charlotte took her score to the next level and was able to compete with her. But Sirius saw at the moment of the battle that he was starting again, and the Scorpion was ready to finish him off. But Shottel did not stop there and felt an excitement that she could not contain. The moment Sirius attacked, the Scorpion suddenly stopped his sword attack. He was surprised and immediately used a holy whirlwind. The warriors shouted loudly. Here it is, the captain's signature skill. Sirius did not stop and began a powerful attack. After they finished off the Scorpion, everyone was surprised. The warriors said that their captain was so strong. He dealt with a giant Warcraft boss until he lost consciousness. He was so loud. The warriors shouted to the captain to deal the final decisive blow to this Warcraft boss. Sirius said that the boss warrior who had been so mercilessly attacking the people gathered here had been defeated. But all this time Charlotte was gaining strength and increasing his points, while the guys on the other side were fighting to the death. Sirius continued to fight and thought, is the Scorpion really that strong? Shottel enjoyed these moments, but suddenly she wondered why there was so much noise outside. She wondered if Lord Ney had died. Suddenly Shottel jumped out of her boyfriend's arms and thought, is this the end? And she seemed to forget why she was here, and she had a request from Lord Ney himself. She had to hurry and get rid of all the people here as soon as possible, but she was on guard and believed that she would succeed. But Charlotte moved to the next level, and he asked the girl if she wanted to continue this battle. Shottel thought, how could this be? But he certainly didn't feel like this just recently. But he's the same as Lord Ney. That's the kind of terrifying pressure that comes from him. Shottel suddenly wondered if she should continue to fight him, as she had done before. But Charlotte had become even stronger and wanted to fight her. Suddenly Shottel decided she had to run. She immediately turned around and ran down the mountain. Charlotte thought that she had run away somewhere. Should she chase after her, or should she just put an end to it? But in reality, he only hoped that Boss Ney's place as the boss of the Blood of the Gods would not take away so much of his strength. The warrior kept shouting that the captain was invincible, and he was so strong. The captain was here, even if they had problems with the dungeon. Bella ran to save her friend, but suddenly a passage opened in front of her, and Charlotte appeared. Bella asked Charlotte if he was okay. He wasn't hurt there, was he okay? Charlotte replied that he was okay. Bella told him that he had dust all over his body. Although he looked fine, maybe there was something wrong with his body. Maybe they should go to the squad's medical team and check him out. Charlotte told Bella that he was fine. She could take his word for it. Bella told him that if he felt ill, he should let her know immediately. Charlotte said he knew everything. Sirius took over and shouted for everyone to listen to him and follow him. He would show what real power was. He would kill this boss. The warriors rejoiced and shouted that the captain was powerful. Sirius thought that the danger level of this dungeon was not even C, it was at level D, which he could barely cope with. And this time he captured a D-rank dungeon and got a C-rank reward for it. And the fact that he defeated the Warcraft boss himself also bodes well for his reputation. And when he returns to the Guild of Daredevils, a reward for killing the boss will definitely await him. Cheryl came to Lord Ney and told him that a very powerful man was approaching them. She doesn't know what method he used. He was initially quite weak, and then everything changed abruptly, and he became extremely powerful. She asked Lord Ney to be careful. Ney asked the girl what she was ordered to do. Shadow replied that no one should be allowed into the blood of the gods, and if anyone did, he should be killed. Ney then told her to be kind and try to explain what she was doing here. Shadow tried to explain, but Lord Ney killed her. Shortly after the attack, an explosion occurred, and Ney said he was not going to listen to her excuses. Shadow fell to the ground and did not move. Ney threw her to all the other bodies he had finished off earlier. Ney said that she was just becoming fuel for the fire. But Shadow was thinking at that time that she did not want to die here. Ney said that after so many years, it was almost a perfect job of sacrificing people and monsters for fuel. Soon the blood of the gods finally boiled, but suddenly there was a huge explosion that showed him the way straight to him. Ney asked, "Who is so brave and fearless that they decided to come here?" Sirius answered that these are the brave ones who can give him a good scare, and that's who attacked him. The system immediately informed the guy that the blood of the gods would help him get rid of toxins in his body. Ney said, so this guy is the one who at first glance seems different. The one Shadow was talking about. Charlotte asked if this would help him recover and heal. Sirius took control and told everyone to listen to him. He ordered that no one should do anything that wasn't shown to him personally. He will kill that C-level dungeon boss. The warriors shouted at the captain to kill him and let them show the entire military craft the true firepower of a human race. Charlotte looked around and said that this liquid was the blood of the gods. But suddenly Ney used a seal that protected this place. The warriors shouted at the captain to run and destroy him. Sirius, like a true captain, rushed at the boss himself to fight him. Sirius said that everyone should experience the terrifying aura of the captain. But Ney did not run away and showed the finger with which he attacked the enemy. Sirius couldn't withstand such a strong attack, and his bones began to break. Sirius simply flew back, away from the attack. The warriors were surprised and could not believe that the captain could not cope with him. Sirius was unable to fight back and was pressed against the wall from the attack. The warriors approached the captain and asked if he was okay. Ney laughed and said that this was the strongest person she had ever spoken of. Shadow was truly incapable of anything. Sirius was surprised that the boss's strength couldn't be that great. He had damaged his A-level defense with just one hit. And he wasn't that weak, as it turned out. But he was lucky he still had the S-level protection his brother gave him. He could have just been killed. The warriors approached the captain and asked if he was okay. But they said that the captain's protection was damaged. Sirius wondered what was wrong with this dungeon. Why do Warcraft bosses have such a big difference in power level? He is afraid that there is no way to fight directly. So in this case, he better work on the strength of his squad. This is the only way to defeat this Warcraft boss. And when he loosens his grip again, he will direct his attack at him again. And then his chances of winning will increase significantly. Sirius turned to everyone and told them to obey his orders. He immediately ordered everyone to load their bows. They all needed to show what they were really capable of. Tyr told the captain that a senseless attack, completely ill-considered, could lead to unnecessary casualties. They can still use that old tactic with the big shield in front. Sirius asked the warrior if he doubted his plan and the effectiveness of his actions. Did he also want to disobey his orders? Tyr told the captain that no, absolutely not. Sirius then told him to stop this nonsense and do as they say. He's the captain after all, and let him do what he's told. It's not a problem. Sirius told everyone to gather and not to worry. He will stand until the end and will always remain their loyal supporter. Sirius took over and shouted for his warriors to attack. They said that their flesh and blood were not even fit for fire. They were not worthy of it. How pathetic they all were. And he wants them all to know that there is a huge difference between people and monsters. Ney used all his strength in a firestorm, which he directed at all the enemies in front of him. But Charlotte managed to escape and took Bella and Tyr with her. He saved their lives so as not to lose his loyal partners. Sirius also miraculously managed to survive, but the sword he was holding melted from the fire. Ney asked the captain if he had not said that he wanted him to experience his terrible power. Sirius realized that he couldn't do anything. It was time to run away from here. Otherwise, he would die here. Sirius continued to address the survivors, shouting for them to obey his orders. It was time to retreat. Tyr became very angry and called the captain an impudent fool because he had previously told him not to do this. But suddenly Charlotte grabbed Captain Sirius' hand and told them all and the crew that he would always remain their loyal supporter, no matter what happened. And his boss fight isn't over. And now he knows Sirius isn't going anywhere. Sirius kept saying he's the captain and the boy has to do what he's told. And if he wants to stay here and die, let him stay, and he doesn't have to take part in this. Ney said that they brazenly broke into his cave and are now planning to escape. Sirius shouted to him that the boss was behind him and was about to send a light wave at them. Sirius realized he couldn't pull his hand out, and why was his grip so strong? Charlotte said the boss was already aiming it in their direction, but Sirius asks him what he's doing and let him let go of his hand already. He orders him to let go, and then he has to think about what he's doing. Sirius realized that he couldn't beat the boss, but that didn't mean he couldn't beat him, and he immediately aimed his fist straight at Charlotte's armor. But Charlotte grabbed his arm and turned him over. Sirius was in so much pain that he started screaming. Charlotte told Sirius that as a conscientious captain, he had to keep his word. Charlotte threw him in the direction of the boss and told him to be a reliable and loyal supporter of his team. Let him stop the boss's attack with himself and cover his allies with his body. That's what a real captain means. Sirius opened his eyes and saw a fiery attack flying straight at him. No one helped him, so he stopped it with his body. Charlotte looked and said it was his turn. Bella suddenly told her brother that she wanted to stay here. Tyr replied that he would stay and fight the monsters too. Bella told him that he shouldn't do that. She stayed because of Charlotte. Tyr said he knows. He's a first-class B. He'll only stay to destroy the Warcraft boss. He'll never back down, and he doesn't want any more orders from that idiot. And EI said at the time that when he saw his strength, he didn't even run away. And it turns out that this guy has high expectations for his strength. Charlotte didn't waste any time and launched a quick kick. But Ney couldn't dodge and got injured. Ney said that this was impressive speed. Charlotte shouted that he was already on his way to the antidote to the blood of the gods. And EI suddenly looked surprised and asked why he was running down the passage. So this boy's goal was not to kill him, but something else entirely? Or maybe he wanted to get the blood of the gods, the boss thought. Charlotte ran and screamed that a little more and he would have gotten everything. Ney told them that they were vile people, and he did not allow them even to come near his altar. At the moment of attack, Tan saw that the enemy's vulnerable spot had opened up and immediately used his strongest attack. But Ney turned around and just grabbed them with both hands and said that this guy was very fast, and then he attacked him so that he wouldn't get close to the altar. Bella screamed at him not to even think about attacking Charlotte and tried to attack him again so he wouldn't interfere with his partner. They didn't stop and attacked with a fire attack, but Charlotte managed to dodge and the enemy missed. Charlotte saw the altar in front of her and jumped straight into it and saw that he was almost there, but suddenly he collapsed before the altar. Charlotte said here it was his antidote. He had finally found it after all this time. He slowly tried to walk down the passage, but felt a magical barrier appear in his path. Touching the barrier worked, and he was thrown back several meters, which he himself did not even expect. Ney said that he drew this magical barrier with his own hands, and as long as he is alive, no one will be able to overcome it. Charlotte, of course, said that it couldn't be that simple, that it was impossible to take the antidote from the blood of the gods without making any effort. And now he has no choice but to fight the boss. But when he turned around, he saw legs and said that there was something inside. Nay waved his stick and told his enemies to get the hell out of here. And they clearly overestimate their capabilities. Bella and her brother failed and were injured by the boss's attack. Charlotte suddenly saw that the same boss girl who had just escaped was in the cave. She didn't come back? Didn't she die? But what had she become? Shothill told the boy that she begged him not to make a sound. Nay said he wanted a quiet death. Once he had killed all their vermin, he would break into their city. And after that, he will call forth his wrath. Charlotte turned around and saw that Bella was in danger. Charlotte decided to help the girl and left her a mushroom when he left. Shothill saw it and realized that it was a mushroom with the effect of blooming power. Charlotte ran to save Bella, and Shothill went to get mushrooms to eat and gain strength. Shothill ate this mushroom, and Saitama immediately told her that a demonic girl named Shothill had improved her love skill for a brave man. And all the conditions for receiving a new weapon are met. And now Charlotte can choose a weapon for herself. But suddenly he stopped abruptly from the choice in front of him. The system said that this was a detailed explanation of the rules of use. Tyr shouted to Bella that he would hold him back, and she would run away from here. Bella said she wouldn't, and she felt like she had broken her leg. And he himself needed to run away before it was too late. Charlotte was pretty pissed and asked, "How much more can we do?" He had people to save. He didn't have time to listen to this nonsense about the control system. Let him give him his weapon already, preferably as soon as possible. The system said that a detailed explanation of the rules of use was missing. Now let him take one card. Charlotte picked up one of the cards and looked at his hand to see that he had received a huge sword. The system reported that he had received a weapon, a divine sword of special explosive power of clothing. Charlotte threw her sword at him and asked the boss what he thought of this turn of events. Charlotte told him to look at the sword he had now, but suddenly Nay turned around and simply caught the sword with his bare hands. Nay started laughing at him and said that he had been deceived, and this is the most common fake. And now he is his only target. He is a man with incredible strength and agility, but his abilities are like a cockroach, and it was too close. And now they will see how he can hide. Charlotte turned to him and told him not to underestimate him. He didn't say he was going to hide. Charlotte took the sword and slashed the boss's arm. Nay asked what he was capable of. Let him face it. Even if he did his best, it would still leave no wound on his body. This is the difference between people, mere mortals, and the great invincible bosses of Warcraft. Suddenly, Nay did not notice how his clothes began to tear. Looking at his body, he asked, "Where did his clothes go?" Tyr was surprised and said that Charlotte left the boss naked. Charlotte said that this Warcraft boss was really strong. Nay asked the guy what kind of dirty thoughts he had. What kind of magic was he using? How dare he use this skill on a Warcraft boss? If it were up to him, he would have destroyed it already, and left only the bones with which he heated this place. Charlotte didn't stop there and rushed to attack, but Nay dodged and the boy missed. Charlotte realized that his previous attack had hit her palm and her clothes had been torn apart from above. In other words, we need to do it again. He can get her clothes off from below if he attacks her legs. And then he'll throw off her mask, and then the last thing left to do is kill her. All he has to do is get close to the boss and use quick slaughter. She can't leave. He'll definitely get hit. The system told him that the current magic power is only enough to use quick slaughter 6 times. Charlotte listened and said that it was a shitty skill, not effective at all. The system asked him if he wanted to turn off this skill. Charlotte said no, and if it came to that, he would try it that way. The system informed him that the quick massacre had begun. Charlotte rushed at him with all her speed, but Nay jumped out to stop him from striking. Charlotte got angry because he missed again. At that moment, Nay thought, why does this bastard always aim at her legs? The clothes on top are already bursting. He wants to take off his skirt too. Charlotte came closer and decided to attack again. Nay said he was a dirty pervert, and he raised his leg and kicked Charlotte right in the head, sending her flying into the wall. Charlotte decided to use her sword and stop the fall. He said it hurt, and that boss almost broke his nose. But Charlotte said it was nothing compared to his body melting from toxins. He decided it was nothing and poisoned himself to attack again. They saw that he wasn't going to leave him alone and used a beam of fire. Charlotte said it was 10 seconds. They said that this bastard dodged his attack. The system told the guy that the reload was complete, and then he made a quick strike and aimed the attack straight at his feet. Charlotte said, now they will see how he dodges at such close range, and she brought down a powerful attack on his legs. Charlotte suddenly felt a strange feeling. He struck, but he was very surprised. They said that she didn't say she was going to run away. If she wasn't afraid of burning her chest, she would have attacked harder. And the guy is too slow. She would have destroyed him long ago. Charlotte was very surprised to see the attack aimed at him. But Charlotte took advantage of the moment and dodged the attack. The system informed him that the quick massacre was on cooldown and the skill could not be used. Charlotte was very angry when she heard that the rapid massacre was still on cooldown. For him, those 10 seconds felt like an eternity. And now he has no choice but to go head on. Charlotte didn't and responded in kind. The force of the wind was so great that the warriors could not even keep up with the strong wind that arose. Tyr remembered that Cirrus had repelled the boss's attack by going head on. That simply couldn't be true. Before the expedition, his overall battle score was only F rank. But in a fight at this level, as a B rank fighter, it is completely useless. Charlotte felt that the attribute of this sword was simply amazing at the moment of attack. Charlotte laughed and said that now he could easily fight off his attacks and dodge his attacks. Her attacks were no threat to him. They told him that he was right. She was indeed not easy to kill, but she could easily kill a woman with a wounded leg and aimed her attack straight at her. Charlotte didn't stop and immediately made a quick strike. Suddenly, her finger fell to the ground, and the guy managed to cut it. Charlotte realized it was really her too slowly. They realized that stupid people are always heroic. That's why it's better to attack them from behind. They didn't stop and use the fire attack again. And he was tricked again, and now he couldn't handle it. Charlotte realized in an instant that he wouldn't have time to escape. And that's just it. But the system was blocked. Suddenly, Charlotte used a quick slaughter. But the guy's defense was broken, and Bella was very surprised. Bella realized that her armor was broken. Charlotte said, finally making it in time. But suddenly something began to crumble next to them. They got angry and said that he was thinking again. But suddenly she realized that she had been so absorbed in the fight that she had forgotten to add wood to the fire to warm the blood of the demon god. And now all her efforts would be in vain if she didn't figure out the altar's temperature now. She'll have to wait another 100 years. But all happened so fast that Bella started saying that she felt strange. She was very hot. The system reported that its mixing rate was 91%. Charlotte asked Bella how she was doing. Bella took his head in both hands and began to pull it towards her. Finally, she tried to kiss him. She was burning with passion and wanted to stop everything because she was in love with Charlotte, who did not yet realize it. At age 8, Bella nudged a boy and asked him, what is he looking at? Has he never seen a beautiful woman before? And why is he following her? Does he want to kiss the beautiful lady? Charlotte stepped aside and replied that he didn't want to. Tyr asked Bella what she was doing. Bella thought she was going to kiss Cirrus. Her body moved on its own. She even stuck her tongue out in the middle of the battle. And now she's ashamed. Tyr tells Bella that her face is red. She's still sweating. Doesn't she have control over her body? She should. Otherwise, she wouldn't be acting like that. At that time, Nay said that once the blood of the demon god cooled, it would take another 100 years before it would boil. And she doesn't want to wait that long again. And this time, she has to burn the demon god's blood completely. She used her magic to take all the dead bodies and send them to the antidote that was nearby and lived for many years. Charlotte saw this and said that she wanted to completely burn away the demon god's blood. And now it's his duty to stop him. The boss is incredibly fast. It's unlikely that he'll be able to hit him, unless he increases his strength. Charlotte continued to gain strength until the boss could no longer fend off attacks. At this point, Nay said she would add more wood to the fire. This would be enough to raise the temperature of the altar to its maximum. Charlotte tells Bella that he has come up with a way to defeat the boss, and he needs her help. Charlotte said, while they are with her, and so his strength will increase, and he will defeat the boss. Tyr became very angry and thought how this guy could say such vulgar things with a serious face. Charlotte said it wouldn't be easy for her, but he was asking her. The system showed at that moment that her arousal level was 93%. Tyr pulls his hand back and says that's complete nonsense. He just wants to take advantage of Bella. They're in the middle of a battle, and he still has time to think of something dirty. Tyr told Bella not to believe him, but Bella told the boy to believe what he said. Bella approaches him and says that she is very embarrassed, but don't let him get the wrong idea. She is only doing this to beat the boss, and she didn't really want to do something like that to him. But Charlotte remembered how she had already told him that. Bella told him earlier that after she kissed him, she would take care of him. Then Charlotte said that he didn't want to play that game. Tyr was standing next to him and yelling at Bella not to do that in front of him. The system said Tyr was furious. At that moment, Charlotte remembered everything and hit her in the face. He stepped back and started screaming that he was on the verge of death. But Bella wondered at that moment, why did he push her away? The system said that the rank increased by 1. All characteristics increased by 5,000 points. Charlotte thought in surprise, 5,000 points. It's definitely because of Tyr. Thank God, he won't have to touch Bella and lose that horrible memory. Charlotte tells Bella that if it's not easy for her, then it's better not to do it. And now he can beat the boss. Bella told him to stop and asked what if he still couldn't? Didn't he need her help? Charlotte turned around and said that it wasn't necessary. Bella asked him why. Didn't he like her at all? Tyr tells Bella that he sees Charlotte as stronger than him, which is why she likes him. But he's still going to ask. Bella replied that it was the same thing again. Charlotte went on the attack and realized that he needed to activate the finishing move. He had to hit the legs and head at the same time. He almost got hit in the legs earlier, but now all his stats are increased by 5,000 points. He'll be able to hit if he finds the right moment for a quick kill. They went to the ship and said there was no connection and asked why the temperature was still so low. If she didn't fix it soon, the temperature would start to drop quickly. Suddenly, it occurred to her, and she said that she would use these pathetic people to add a little warmth. Nay threw her clothes off her chest and told them to be proud, and they would all become firewood for her sacrifice. And for her, this is the highest reward she can offer them. And she realized that it was time to reveal her full power. She turned to her highnesses and ordered them to kill all the humans. At this time, Charlotte stood below her and saw the huge attack and the ship that she would send straight at them. Charlotte tried to stop, but Nay's attack was closing in on him. The system informed him that his mana points were being used up quickly. Charlotte tried various ways to stop her, but to no avail. The system showed that he had used up everything, and now he can't use any skill due to his low magic points. They told him that his magic power was gone, and now the fight was over. Charlotte told her that it wouldn't be. By this time, Bella came and said that he needed her help, and he was a very good man. She picked him up and hugged him to her chest. The system told him that Tyr had a broken heart. Bella realized that she had said that her heart was broken a long time ago, hadn't she? Since she was a child, and it hadn't changed. The system immediately showed that Charlotte's rank had risen to 5. It began to glow and spoke of such a surge of rising energy. The system told him that all the stats had increased by 27,500 points. Any eye saw a bright light and said that it was impossible, and he couldn't fight back. Any eye said that no matter how much his strength increased, he was still just a human. And in front of monsters, he was just a bug. Charlotte attacked her unexpectedly and was ready to finish her off once and for all. But Nay said that she could also repel any of his attacks. But Charlotte acted like a speed machine and once again caused a lightning-fast massacre. Nay was very angry and said that he cut her face. The system said that she was and unlocked the Ulba Divine sword, descending holy sword. Nay screamed that he was crazy and asked him how he dared to disfigure his face. She would not forgive him for this. They tried to use the same attack again, and put all her power into it to finish off the bug. But Charlotte wasn't scared by this, and he was ready to take it all in and fight him once or twice, and then try the potion that would cure him. Nay screamed that she would destroy them all. Charlotte froze and waited a moment to respond with the same attack. Nay began to crush everything in her path, and the attack was so strong that everything around shook. But Charlotte fought back and attacked her with her own attack, giving him victory over her. The system informed the boy that the reload of the descending holy sword would take 20 seconds. Charlotte walked up to the vessel, where the seal was still active. He asked why the altar was still working. Nay stood up and asked him, does he think he has won? She will not let pathetic humans touch the demon god. The system said it would recharge in 9 seconds. Charlotte told her he would finish her in 9 seconds. Suddenly, he heard Tyr screaming for Bella. Charlotte turned around and saw that her health was critically low. She was on the verge of death. Nay stood up and said that he would only get to the altar over his dead body. And now they would see who was who, a monster or a man. Charlotte didn't fight her and went to Bella to save her. He took Tyr with him and started running away. Charlotte left their room and realized that they had indeed escaped. Humans are incredibly stupid. He ordered the system to open the map and find the shortest route. And he needs to get them to the guild hospital as soon as possible. Suddenly, a scorpion appeared in front of him. Charlotte was very angry and was ready to finish him off too. But Bella remembered how the boys laughed at her. They said that she had withdrawn into herself again. He was so ugly that no one wanted to kiss her. And she only has the appearance to scare away crows in the garden, not to be a scarecrow. But one of the boys grabbed Charlotte's hand and told him to stay away. She'd give him something, and he's going to be a freak too, and they better go play basketball. Charlotte used a quick punch on the scorpion and went through it. Charlotte remembered his childhood again and said that the game was not over yet. He was a boy and she was a girl. He would be a dad and she would be a mom. So he has to take care of her. Charlotte saved their lives and told Bella that everything would be okay. But Nay stood before the altar at this time, speaking a little longer, and she did not allow the temperature to drop. Nay said the altar would be like this, and this guy would be her sacrifice. Meanwhile, Charlotte was in big trouble because she was attacked by a dragon that breathed fire. But Nay turned to the demon gods and said that she could no longer serve them. But Charlotte was not going to stop and used the quick slaughter against the dragon again. Suddenly Charlotte wondered and thought, why did his divine sword disappear? The system told him that the enemy was defeated and the sword returned to the system. And now the gun would be back in 12 hours. Charlotte didn't care because he was almost at the exit. The other warriors were saying that they had finally gotten out, and they were telling Captain Sirius that they had done it. Sirius realized that it was very close, and he almost died in that dungeon. He said that everything hurt, and even his dragon scale armor was broken, and all because of that strange Charlotte. But the boss should have killed him already. Suddenly the boys turned around and saw that Charlot had caught up with them. The warrior turned to the captain and said that Charlotte was still alive. Sirius turned around and asked in surprise what. Sirius took his sword and said that he was following them quietly. So he went out. He asked Charlotte how dare he disobey his order and betray, and as captain, he hereby declares that he is no longer a member of their crew. Let him not even think of using their medicine to support his worthless life. And his life is ending right now. He is going to execute him. But Charlotte disobeyed him and flew at his feet, right at his head. Charlotte said he had no time for idle chatter. The warrior asked him how he dared to treat the captain like that. The warrior came up to Sirius and said that Charlotte just hit the captain and he passed out, and we need to get him to the hospital as soon as possible. Charlotte restrained her impulse and took them to the hospital. The doctor received the patients and shouted that urgent help was needed and that they should quickly prepare for the operation. Charlotte sighed and said that he was finally there. Now, he had to go back to the dungeon. He was one step away from getting the blood of the gods for the antidote. At this time, something unexpected was happening in the dungeon. The potion being prepared suddenly began to boil. Suddenly, a huge monster emerged from there, apparently taking the place of the dungeon boss. All this time, Shatil sat in the rock and thought. What did Nay achieve by sacrificing herself? The new boss suddenly attacked her, and Shothill was very scared. She realized that it was a chilling sensation. It was as if countless needles were piercing her bones. The new boss said it was a familiar smell, and it gave her a familiar feeling, and it really did feel like home. The boss turned to the human world and said that he was here again, and it was the demon god, Azathoth. Shothill realized that it was too dangerous here, and she had to run. But Azathoth caught the scent and approached the rock. He slowly ran his finger along the stone, and everything started to collapse. The monsters crawled under him and asked why the floor exploded, and everyone started to fall into the abyss. Shothill managed to escape the raid in an unexpected way and ended up right in front of Azathoth. The monsters said they had fallen to the bottom, but suddenly one of them told the others to look up. The monster said the dungeon was destroyed. They were in the open, but who could have done such a thing? Did Lord Nye really do it? But one of the monsters said no. There must be someone more powerful. Could it be the one standing before them? They turned to Lord Naya, but Azathoth replied that she was not alive. Azathoth said he needed a new servant. The monsters were surprised to hear that Lord Nain was dead and even asked if they should run. One of the monsters knelt down and said that these monsters were a bloodline that had admired great power for many years, and he is ready to follow someone more powerful than Lord Nain, and asked the new lord to make him his servant. The others started asking to join the team. They were ready to fight to the death for him. Azathoth looked at it and said it was disgusting. He summoned his monsters, which he himself had created from this potion. Azathoth said he didn't want any strange minions. Shothill was kneeling before him the whole time. Azathoth looked at her and said that she was beautiful. Let her raise her head and open her mouth. Shothill began to cry and obeyed the order, opened her mouth. She released the earth from her hands and ordered her to drink. Shothill suddenly began to feel a surge of strength. She realized that her body was healing, and she was getting better. Azathoth said that her body should feel good. His blood could heal any disease, increase stamina, and strengthen the immune system. And at the same time, it could give unprecedented pleasure. Azathoth told her that it was already getting dark and asked her to find a cleaner room and wait for him there. Meanwhile, at the guild headquarters, a guy named Darren pinned Sirius' head to the table and asked him how the mission had failed. Sirius replied that he was sorry. He would have to think of something. If he lost his position as captain, he would have to audit all remaining assets of the guild. And if it turns out they were secretly selling the guild's resources, Darren yelled at him to shut up. Darren told the boy that he had said earlier that someone on his team had broken orders. Sirius replied that yes, his name was Charlotte. Darren looked at his card and suggested that it all be written off on him, and sentenced him to be shot for desertion. At this time, Charlotte reached the dungeon and asked in surprise how it exploded. He ran to the altar and thought about his antidote. But when he looked closer, he saw that the altar was completely empty. The room where Shothill was very bright, and the sky was open. She sat on a stone and waited for her master. But suddenly Azathoth came, and she asked him not to do it. Suddenly, she began to feel something soft touching her back. Shothill broke away from his embrace and stepped aside. Azathoth asked her what happened. Did she not like the embrace? Shothill asked her how she was doing. Azathoth replied that there was nothing surprising about it. At night, she loses her power and takes on her true form as a woman. And at night, she must protect her. Let him kill anyone who is hostile to her. And she must not think about trying to kill her or escape. By drinking her blood during the day, she could tinker with her own blood. She could control her body through her blood and could make it explode at any second. So she is an obedient girl. Charlotte had been running around the rooms all this time and saw that they were all empty. Charlotte started running in different directions and searching. He said that there was still hope. The blood of the gods should be somewhere in the city. Charlotte turned to the system and told it to give him a map, and he decided that he would search every corner. Azathoth said she didn't want to end up like this, but she has no choice. Her heart is sealed in the Heroes Guild. He is in his best form now, so at night he turns into a weak man. But after every night, there is always a day. and after she regains her power, she will go straight to the guild headquarters and get her heart back. And when that happens, every monster, no matter day or night, will bow before her power. Suddenly, Shadil heard something and said that there was someone here, and she would go and check. Azathoth told her to stay 5 kilometers away from her during the battle. If she goes beyond that radius, we'll think she decided to flee and melt her body. Shadil replied that she understood everything. At that moment, the system informed the boy that the blood of the gods was in Lord Ney's dungeon. Charlotte said it was definitely here, and this was the last room left, and the blood of the gods had to be here. But at that moment, Shadil was waiting for him behind the wall. She waited for the moment to attack, but Charlotte sensed it and dodged. Shadil said it was him again. Azathoth was lying in the room and couldn't cope, and asked what was going on. Why was her body shaking so much? But she knew that this only happened when she was close to her heart. Shadil told the boy that Lord Ney had died. Why had he returned? He had better run away before that day came. Charlotte told her that she had regained enough strength to fight. Did she like his mushroom delicacy? Shadil blushed and replied that it was not tasty at all. The most disgusting mushroom she had ever eaten. Let her get out of here. The system showed that the degree of excitement was 71%. Charlotte said that she blushed. He did not expect that she would be happy to see him. Shadil suddenly lunged at him with her legs and tried to kick him, but the boy managed to dodge again. The girl told him not to talk nonsense, and she is not happy to see him at all. She has no good feelings for him. Shadil continued to hit the guy in the face, but she also said that her feelings for this man were disgust. Looking down, she saw that the guy was gone. She realized that she had hit him in the face, but he still ran away. Charlotte shouted that he had urgent business and they would talk later. He felt that the blood of the gods was right behind that door, and he could feel it. Suddenly the doors in front of him opened and Azathoth appeared. Charlotte was surprised to see a human here. Shadil asked Azathoth why she had left, but the hostess did not answer and only waved her hand. Azathoth touched the boy and Charlotte immediately felt pain. She looked at his body and saw that her heart was inside him. She wondered why it was in a man's body. Charlotte had told her to let it in. And what was she going to do? Charlotte touched it and saw that the system showed that it was the blood of the gods. He asked how his antidote became human. He immediately lifted her hand and saw that the cut was still there. Charlotte grabbed her hand with her teeth and realized that her blood was the antidote. Azathoth blushed deeply after that, and it was even pleasant. The system told the boy that it didn't help, and he only had 101 days to live. Charlotte asked why her blood didn't help. Azathoth realized that blood would not help while it was in a man's body. Shadil entered the fray and screamed at him to let go of her hand. Charlotte reacted sharply and stepped back. Azathoth looked at the boy and realized that her heart had been absorbed by the man and turned into an entity in his rotten body. She really wanted her power back, and she would forcefully absorb him back in her body, and then his body would turn into a pool of blood. This is the punishment for using her power without permission. Charlotte asked if it could be another fluid of hers. It would work, but he suddenly said that it didn't matter. It was better to leave here and think it over calmly. Suddenly a monster appeared, and she said she could feel its presence 1,000 miles away. And it was a sensation that drove her senses crazy, and everything inside her awakened. And she never took off the bell she gave her for a minute. This monster was called Boss Ghana. Ghana said she's already proven her loyalty. Maybe she'll eat her right now, and she'll be all hers. Azathoth suddenly approached her and started to run away. Ghana was very surprised that someone stole her food and was very upset. Charlotte didn't leave her there and immediately flew out the window with her. Charlotte didn't expect the boss to appear out of nowhere, and he hates it. He needs to get her to safety first. Ghana wouldn't leave him alone and screamed at the guy to bring her back. She chased him and said that he couldn't escape. After a while, Charlotte stopped and said that he had finally escaped from that monster. Azathoth asked the guy where he brought her. Charlotte answered that she was at the Heroes Guild in Zone Z in his house. Azathoth rejoiced and realized that it was even easier this way. After she returned her power to her body, she would be able to kill directly, and he will pay for stealing her heart. Suddenly, unexpectedly, she hugged him and called him her dear hero. Azathoth said that she was cursed by a terrible monster. If she does not find a partner soon, she will die. And now she asks the hero to save her. Charlotte says that he is a noble and honest hero. He will never take advantage of someone's vulnerability. Azathoth climbed on top of him and said that he was so brave, and her body hurt so much. He had to save her. Charlotte was angry and couldn't believe how he got himself into this. He knew deep down that he could never do something like that. He would never take advantage of someone's weakness, but otherwise his conscience would torment him. But as a hero, his honor tells him that the people who need his help are suffering. He can't just sit back. Azathoth turned to Charlotte and kissed her. He realized that he was ready for anything, and let him experience this pain from the depths of his heart. Azathoth decided that she would suck out all the energy and restore her powers, and destroy each of them one by one. Suddenly Charlotte saw that she had a tail. He suddenly panicked and did not realize that she was human. But at some point he thought hard and saw that there were tails in front and behind. He immediately started pushing her away and screaming. Charlotte couldn't come to her senses and asked why she was feeling the same way. Azathoth suddenly came up to him and answered that he was brave, and he said that he would help her. Azathoth realized that it was dawn, and her body began to change. She asked if he had changed his mind, had he? Suddenly Charlotte looked to the side and saw a strange animal. Azathoth asked him who it was. Suddenly the animal turned into a man and began to tell its owner that it was hungry and wanted to eat. It would die of hunger. Charlotte said he felt that his help was more important to her now. He promised to help her first. At this time the girl was very ill, and this nest was so small for her that she could not even turn around. Charlotte asked Azathoth if she was hungry. He would cook something in no time. He went to the kitchen and lit a fire. Charlotte suddenly thought about it and decided that he would deal with the food later. But what would he do now? What if he didn't save her and she really did die? He couldn't think of anything, and he really was going to go with her, but the thought of it made him lose his temper. Azathoth realized the same thing, that she couldn't wait any longer and let him give her back her energy, or she would come up behind him and make him do it. Charlotte started running and screaming for her to let him go. Charlotte says he's had enough, and he needs to save her first. Azathoth senses that her body is too weak, and she needs a better way. Charlotte entered the room and saw that the girl had gone into another room. He followed her and saw that she was lying on the floor and drinking. Charlotte saw it and said it was toilet cleaner. How did she drink it? The girl smiled and said it was delicious. Charlotte handed her the food and left. By that time, Azathoth came and said that he had already fed her and now let him help her. Charlotte told her to calm down and he would get to her right away. Azathoth pounced on him and said that she didn't need his excuses, and she needed to do it right now. The system reported that the weapon's use time had expired, and the equipment immediately disappeared from his body. The system told him that he ran out anyway, covered himself with a piece of cloth, and waved at 33 people. Charlotte screamed at the system that she was an idiot and he would never do that. The system responded that if he did not complete the action, he would be sent to the opposite dimension. Charlotte turned around and saw some strange people staring at him. Charlotte got scared and started screaming. Now it seemed even more scary, and she wondered how he could cover himself with such a small piece of fabric. The length is not enough to cover the body completely. The whole back will be open, and he can't hold it on both sides. He has to wave his hand, and that's it. He's doomed. Charlotte told Azathoth to wait for him here, and he will go out for a little walk. The girl was very surprised and said that people probably came out like that every day. Azathoth realized that it looked like they would have to wait for him all day. The girl asked Azathoth if she would drink it. It was very tasty. Azathoth thanked her and replied that she would refuse. Charlotte decided to make a mask and realized that this is all he needs to do, and no one will know it's him if he hides his face. Now he'll run to the kebab shop. There's always a lot of people there. He'll get the gist of it in no time. Ghana had not left him alone all this time and had been following him. But when she saw him go outside, she wondered where he was going. And besides, she immediately sensed that he was somewhere here. Charlotte walked up to his seat, shouted for everyone to look at him, and started waving her arms. People immediately started shouting that there was a pervert here, and he was probably sick, and let them catch him immediately. Charlotte stood still and shouted for them to look at him. But the people did not stop and ran after him. Suddenly the girls in the room felt that there was someone there. Chatel slowly entered the window and said that she had finally found her. Chatel said that the bravest heroes live in this city. If they are caught, they will be in trouble, and they better get out of here quickly. Azathoth replied that it was almost morning. There was no point in hiding. Let her find and bring this man. And as soon as she rises, let her blood spill on the ground, so she will find her. By that time, she will return to her former self. Chatel went out to search and wondered what would happen to the man when Azathoth took his normal form, but she guessed that he would turn into mush. Suddenly, Chatel heard strange screams and, looking around, saw a group of people running after Charlotte. Charlotte ran away from the guys and, from time to time, asked people how they were doing, but the guys did not lag behind and ran after him to punish him. Charlotte looked at the system and said that half of it was already there, but suddenly a monster appeared behind him. Charlotte turned around and saw the monsters. People were very scared and shouted that it was a monster. Evacuate the civilians immediately, and we need a call for reinforcements. Charlotte thought the monsters had appeared at such an inopportune moment. He would try to fight his way through the mission. Charlotte suddenly turned to the system. The system informed him that the use of the system was prohibited during the weapon extraction mission. Everything returned to the original F rank. Charlotte was very surprised and asked, "What?" The system told him to complete the mission to retrieve the weapon as soon as possible. Suddenly, microphones in the city turned on and announced that monsters had been spotted in Kona, and citizens were asked to leave the area. One of the guys suddenly walked up to the monster and shouted that he had grabbed him by the legs and asked his friend to throw him a weapon. He was going to finish him off. Charlotte did not abandon him in trouble and conveyed her congratulations to the guy, after which she immediately said goodbye. The guy was very surprised and started calling him names. But at the end, he asked if the monsters had pulled his pants down. Suddenly, a strange monster appeared in front of him, looking straight at him. The boy was very scared and screamed that he had broken free. But everything went much easier and better. One of the guild warriors came up and cut the spider in two. Security Captain Kayak himself came to the rescue. He immediately asked, "Are heroes of rank afraid to teach?" The president of the Charlton Hero Guild said, "Excellent work. It can be said that he has also been on the battlefield. Now evacuate him immediately." Kayak told the gentleman that he had nothing to worry about because he had their security with him. But suddenly, out of the blue, Ghana walked in and screamed what she felt. And the man was right there. Kayak turned, grabbed his sword, and told them to take the deputy and tell the president to stand down. Kayak suddenly swung his sword at her, but Ghana dodged it. She asked him if that was all he could do. Kayak was very surprised that his attack didn't work, and Ghana made a dirty attack and aimed it at him. Kayak started screaming that he was poisonous, and he couldn't be touched. Ghana started laughing and said that people were so fragile. She couldn't even take a drop of poison. The warrior shouted to the captain that he would capture the monster. Let them take the deputy president to safety. Ghana asked the guy if he was trying to keep her. Let him try. Charlotte was running at that time and saw that he had only one man left. But Ghana was holding Kayak's head in her hands at that moment and saying that he was moaning so sweetly. Was he really not going to make any more sounds? Ghana approached the president and said that she had not heard enough. The deputy was screaming and asking for help. Charlotte appeared and told her to let him go and shouted at the assistant to look at him. The system reported that the mission of the weapon era was complete. Charlotte felt a surge of strength and screamed that the clothes were back. He immediately turned to the system, but the system asked him to choose a card. Charlot didn't look and took the first one that came to hand. The system showed that the weapon was selected, and now he has a silent divine finger. And when touching the surrounding objects, the touch will be felt by the enemy. And when the enemy cries out with all his heart, then the silent force will come into action. Ghana cried out at this man and asked him where he hid Azathoth. Charlotte replied that he would not give her Azathoth. Ghana said that then she would kill him, and she would find him herself as soon as the morning came. Charlotte saw it above her and ordered the system to lock on. He put on his gloves and protected himself. Charlotte touched the ground, but Hannah felt someone touch her body at the same time. The system showed that the scream level was 12%, and the silent power was activated. Suddenly, everything started to collapse under her, and she didn't understand what was happening. At the end, she felt the guy touching her breasts. And just as she was screaming, an invisible force touched him. It even hurt a little, and it was him, a man. Ghana said that her body and mind belong only to Azathoth. Anyone who touches her, except Azathoth, must die. She will not allow such betrayal of her master to happen again. The system said that the power of a scream is directly proportional to the power of silence. Ghana said that she was going to collect all the poison in her hands. She would bring his corpse to the Lord as an apology. Ghana pounced on him and told him to let the boy die in agony. That's the price he pays for touching her. Charlotte didn't lose her composure and immediately dodged the first attack. But during the second, she didn't reach and fell in Agon's claw. But Charlotte didn't lose her head and immediately touched the ground with her hands. Ghana couldn't stand it and started screaming. The system showed that the scream level was 43%. She couldn't hold back again and started to collapse everything under her. Suddenly, Charlotte felt like he touched her armpit. Ghana was already very angry and even covered her mouth with both hands. She was in a lot of pain, and this attack was much stronger than the previous one. But why was she moaning again, she thought. In fact, she wanted to hold back. And this time he touched her armpit, and it was very ticklish. And it was only for a second, but she really enjoyed it so much. Only Lord Azathoth could give her such pleasure, and it was very strange that a human could do it. She was holding a bell in her hands and saying that she was asking Azathoth for forgiveness. How could a normal person have the same thoughts as her? There was definitely something wrong with her. Of course, she was disgusted by it. A human would never compare to it. Ghana grabbed her head and screamed. But after a few minutes, she said that she had now come to her senses and asked if she deserved forgiveness. Charlotte looked at her and said, "She's scolding herself. Is she really that crazy?" Ghana told the guy that he was attacking so strangely, but he still couldn't defeat her. Suddenly, she grabbed her sword. Charlotte stared and thought it was some strange place to store a weapon. But it didn't matter. First the chest, then the armpits. And if he calculated the trajectory correctly, the blow should have landed in his back now. Ghana ran after him and asked, "Is he running away already?" But it's too late. Ghana caught up with him and tried to finish the guy off with her weapon. But Charlotte didn't lose her head and immediately moved aside, so she missed. Charlotte said he was very clever, and she couldn't catch him. Hannah said she knew and released her web. Charlotte was very surprised to see the web in front of her. He was trapped and completely immobilized. Ghana told the boy that he would not run away now, and, grabbing a weapon, she shouted that he would die now, and went to kill. Charlotte let go of his hand and decided he would try again, and he tried the inside of her thigh. Ghana immediately started screaming after that. She even said that this man was fighting so strangely, but this time she would have to hold on. But Charlotte decided not to stop and continued to move her hand along the wall and slowly raise her wrist. Ghana couldn't stand it any longer and let out a quiet scream. The system immediately showed that the scream level was 1%. She suddenly dropped her hand and said that she was holding back, and if she didn't scream, his attacks wouldn't work. But when she raised her head, she saw that there was no one else on the wall. Ghana immediately asked how he got out. Charlotte followed her and said that she told her that he couldn't escape. Hannah didn't expect this and was very surprised. Ghana laughed and said that was stupid. She had figured out his tactics. He would no longer have a chance to escape. and now he would definitely die. Ghana decided to cover her mouth with a web. That way she wouldn't make a sound, and his trick wouldn't work anymore. Charlotte asked her. She felt it on the inside of her thigh, didn't she? Ghana thought the guy was disgusting and too attentive. Charlotte said that meant he was right. He suited her body proportions. And now they will reach the part of the fight where one side gains the upper hand over the other, and he will study her body and find the most sensitive place. Ghana actually felt his attacks. It didn't matter which part of her body. She still didn't make a sound. Charlotte got ready and started to attack. Ghana felt him coming closer, and she started to feel him touching her. She kept telling herself that she wouldn't moan. Charlotte looked and said, getting no reaction. Ghana suddenly started blushing and realized that this feeling was different. It seemed to come from the heart. She told herself again that she could control herself and asked Azathoth to make sure she controlled herself. She didn't betray him. He is the only one in her heart, and this level of pleasure is nothing compared to what he brings. Charlotte suddenly decided to use another tactic again and asked her how she felt about it. Ghana couldn't even answer him and started writhing in front of him. She felt only pleasure, and it clouded her mind. Zam watched the battle and said that the monster was shaking again. But what was that sound? How did he make her moan? He wanted to learn that too. Ghana thought at that moment, how could a person do such a thing? And it was so nice. This pleasure had never been like this before. She turned to Lord Azathoth again and told him that she was losing him. But she pulled herself together and decided that she would stop thinking about it. Ghana said that she belongs only to Azathoth, and now she needs to pull herself together, and she has no more idle thoughts. Charlotte started to be surprised and said that she didn't scream anymore, and I guess the pleasure wasn't enough. Ghana turned poison into metal and decided to make a weapon out of poison, and she's not going to give up so easily. Charlotte started attacking again and told her to enjoy his skill, and ran his hands along the wall. Ghana fell to the ground and couldn't help herself. She felt that the feeling was too strong. She couldn't even move. Ghana decided that she had to kill him as soon as possible. Otherwise, Lord Azathoth would disappear from her heart. She retreated and threw her weapon at him. Charlotte was surprised by this, but dodged it. And then Ghana ordered the weapon to release the poison. The poison immediately spread behind the boy. Ghana said that he definitely would not be able to escape in this terrible place. But suddenly she looked and saw that there was no one. She realized that at such a close distance he would not be able to do anything. And now that his whole body is poisoned by her venom, he will simply dissolve. Charlotte went up to the roof and said that she can't hold him with her web, and it won't work. Ghana saw him right away, and he just jumped on the roof. Charlotte said he wouldn't fall for it a second time. And now it's his turn. Charlotte jumped between the two houses and ran her hands along the wall to feel even better. Ghana couldn't help herself and fell to the ground again. She was starting to feel it again. She hoped that she just had to endure it a little longer, and it would stop soon. Ghana couldn't watch and thought, how much longer? And last time it all happened so fast. Why does it take longer now? Make her stop doing this. Ghana turned to Lord Azathoth and said that she was too weak. The web broke, and she began to scream. Ghana screamed that she would eat this man. The system immediately showed that the scream level was 100%. Her scream was so loud that the bell shattered into pieces, and her magic level dropped to 0. Ghana turned into a saber-toothed spider, and the system informed the guy that the enemy was destroyed, and the weapon was returned to the system. Charlotte picked up the spider, and the system said the danger level was 0%, and the conquest was unlocked. And after defeating the boss, he gets his abilities. And soon the poisonous alloy was acquired. Charlotte asked if he could use the poison inside his body as a weapon. And then Azathoth showed up and said the guy was caught. Charlotte was very surprised to find him. At this time, Shadil was on the other side and released from her finger the liquid that Azathoth ordered her to release. Immediately after this, Azathoth felt and disappeared from the room and appeared in front of Shatila. She showed her appearance and asked where the man was. Shadil told him that she had lost sight of him. Azathoth said that this man had his heart in him. If he did not return it, it would always incarnate as a helpless man at night, and she lost track of him. Suddenly, they heard strange screams in the city. Azathoth suddenly had a strange feeling that she should go there. The system informed the boy that he had unlocked a new skill that allowed him to teleport monsters back to their home. Charlotte was surprised and said, "A device." The girl who was in his room suddenly saw a spider in front of her. But Azathoth found the guy and said he caught him. Charlotte was surprised but did not have time to dodge, and he caught him. Azathoth said he promised to save him, but she ran away. It pisses him off. Charlotte asked, "Is he really a man?" "He's a monster, and he lied to him about the curse. And now he wants what?" Azathoth replied that he should fulfill his promise. Charlotte said he wasn't interested in men. Azathoth changed her appearance and asked how about it. The guy turned around and asked what? Azathoth started meowing and asked the boy if he would be interested in becoming a cat girl. Charlotte said no. Charlotte told him that no matter who he became, he wouldn't be interested. He liked women. Charlotte tried to hit him, but Azathoth grabbed his arm and said that they, humans, don't like role-playing games. He thought they could have some fun, but in the end, he turned him down. It was a shame, and now he would have to take extreme measures then, and he licked the guy's fingers. Charlotte jumped up and asked him, did he get up to lick his fingers? Azathoth started smiling and replied that he was so delicious and so sweet. Charlotte tried to escape, but Azathoth shouted at him to do whatever he wanted. He certainly wouldn't be able to escape. Azathoth said that he had loaded the system to the maximum a long time ago. If he wants to run, let him run as much as he wants. In the end, the result will be the same. How about trying to use the system to try to slow him down? Charlotte replies that he doesn't want to use the system against people. He's a human too. Azathoth pounced on him and said he would help him experience another portion of pleasure. The blood in his veins was this boy's antidote. Wasn't that interesting? He would heal him if he was a good boy. Charlotte said that if this was the only way to get the antidote, he would rather die. He would never do that to a human. Azathoth told the boy how he dared refuse him. We need to teach him discipline. He will beat it into his body. He himself will beg for it. Azathoth said that his heart, power, and system will soon return to his master. She suddenly decided to use the power, but it did not work. Azathoth asked, what's wrong? Where's his magic? The system said it canceled his attack, and all attacks against Charlotte are useless. The system asked the boy if he was willing to sacrifice 50% of his life for a chance to kill Azathoth. Charlotte replied that he was. The system showed him and told him that when Azathoth's target was captured, Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion would be activated. And after that, he would be completely absorbed by it, and the poison could be neutralized. And now he has 50 days left to live. Azathoth realized that the system did not return to his body. And this cannot be. Charlotte turned around and thought that there were no more than 10 meters between them. As long as he could see her, he could grab her. So he immediately gave the go-ahead for the grab. Suddenly, red smoke appeared and Charlotte thought, what did it do? It's so thick. You can't see anything. Azathoth looked at his hand and saw that his hand was injured. Shadow also said that her palm suddenly started bleeding. Suddenly a drop fell on the grass and Azathoth appeared. He came out and said that it was close and he almost died. The stupid system betrayed him. But Shadow realized that he must know her location. Charlotte looked and saw that the system knew where he was. Charlotte was very surprised that he ran so far in a second. Shadow asked Azathoth. He was all sweaty. Wasn't he hurt? Azathoth replied that no one could harm him. She drank his blood and their bodies merged. If he had been wounded, she would have suffered first. Shadow asked Azathoth if he had taken care of the child. Azathoth replied that no, his attacks would not work against him. Shadow asked if it was true. Azathoth replied that she thought she was happy that he was alive. The girl said no. She hated him, and if he can't kill him, maybe they should go back to the dungeon. Azathoth said no. He's been with the system for 1,000 years. He knows how it works. She made sure his attacks wouldn't work on him. However, pleasure doesn't fall under the category of attacks. He would give him deadly pleasure. The choice of a host system with a compatible symbiotic organism is a very difficult task, and therefore, when a person dies, the system will choose only him. And once he becomes a human, the system will not be able to give away his location. Azathoth ordered Shatil to find the human. Suddenly, Azathoth asked his servant, she had learned this transformation magic, right? Let him try to use it on her. Shatil replied that she would try now. She began the process of magic. But Azathoth said that she would lose all her magic during the night. She would have to rely on it to maintain the transformation. Shatil turned her into an ordinary girl with her magic. Azathoth looked at her and said that it was not so bad. With this transformation, that person would not be able to recognize her. And people always like to do something like the hero saves the pretty girls. Let him play the hero once, and then she can make a smart move. She will find a way to push him. Shatil asked the Lord if she could really kill this man in a good way. Azathoth replied that of course she could. Otherwise, how did she think she would die? And now she's been left behind by the system. And the more she thinks about it, the angrier she gets. But why did the system reject her? She doesn't understand it all. What was so good about this person? Charlotte realized at this time that he only had 50 days left to live. If he found Azathoth within that time, he could be cured and survive. But time was running out, so he had to hurry. But suddenly he felt a little sick and felt the poison in his body activate again. And this time it was his feet. He suddenly started to feel a burning sensation in his feet. His little toe started to burn. Charlotte immediately fell to the ground in severe pain and screamed at the top of her voice. Zam was nearby at the time and saw how the boy was suffering. After fainting, Charlotte regained consciousness in a white room. When the doctor saw this, they began to shout that he had woken up and immediately informed Lord Charlton about it. The deputy replied that he understood everything and would come now and tell everything. Charlotte asked, "Is he in the hospital? But who brought him here?" The doctor replied that his Lordship Charlton, the vice president of the Adventurers Guild, brought him here. Charlotte was very surprised and asked, "What vice president of the guild?" Suddenly the door opened and a man entered, telling the guy that he was already awake. The deputy asked the boy if he remembered saving his life. Charlotte replied that it was a fat man being chased by a spider. The deputy laughed and replied that that was correct. Charlotte became curious and asked how long he had been unconscious. The deputy replied that it was about 13 hours. Charlotte was surprised and asked why he had been unconscious for so long. The last battles had exhausted him. Zam said that he apologized for his impatience and inattention, and he hoped that he had not disturbed his rest. Charlotte asked Zam if he needed anything from him. Zam squeezed his hand and told the guy that he saw his fight with that spider woman. His magic is truly exceptional. Charlotte asked, "What's the problem?" The deputy thought about it and said that as men get older, certain abilities start to fade and they lose interest in certain things. But he had seen his battle. It was impressive, intense, and very exciting. And if he could learn it, he would definitely regain his youth and save himself from the suffering of the last 10 years. That's why he asked Malor to teach him this magic. Let him accept him as a student. Charlotte was very surprised and realized that the vice president of the Adventurers Guild wanted to become his apprentice. And if he became his teacher, they would have this connection. And using the guild's resources to find Azathoth, that would be very useful. But it's a system ability. How can he teach him that? And then Charlotte said that his magic was very difficult to learn. And could Zam accept that? Zam replied that he didn't care how difficult it was, he had to try. And as they say, the master leads him to the door, and practice is everyone's business. He will do everything to learn this, even if it costs him his life. Charlotte told him that the magic he had witnessed had to be practiced from the fingertips. The deputy knelt down and asked the master to accept the student's bow. Charlotte asked the student to quickly stand up. The deputy said that it was right. This matter should not be spread. After all, he was still the vice president of the Adventurers Guild. Charlotte told him that since he was his master, he would understand. But suddenly Daisy, the deputy's secretary, knocked and said that she had something to report. The deputy responded, gesturing for her to come in. Suddenly, Charlotte saw the newspaper and asked, "Was he convicted of desertion? Death penalty?" Daisy replied that yes. The documents show that he disobeyed the orders of the captain of the Sirius squad, ran away without permission, and as a result the mission failed. The deputy also looked and said that this case is really very complicated. He'll try to find someone who can take it on. Charlotte said there was no need for that. He didn't run away, the dungeon boss and I did, and he already took care of that. Daisy says she found information about the party's retreat. He wants her to believe that he is F rank, Bella is B rank, and Tyr. The three of them defeated the S rank monster boss, Nye. It's simply impossible. Charlotte said she could send someone to Nye's dungeon to confirm his claims. Daisy replied that it was empty at the moment. She had already sent someone. However, he needed to be detained during the investigation to prevent any escape problems. The deputy says there is no need for this, and he takes Charlotte's word for it. Daisy told him it was against the rules. The deputy said he would then take responsibility for overseeing him during the investigation. Daisy told Zam that he needed to attend the guild's appreciation banquet that evening. Zam said that Charlotte should accompany him. Daisy told Zam that the banquet was very important. Let him reconsider. Charlotte agreed and replied that she had never been to a guild banquet before. The deputy thought and said that then everything was decided. He would not disturb him while he was resting. He would come and take him to the banquet. Suddenly, Charlotte decided to contact the system and find out where Azathoth is. When he is ready, he will go looking for him. He immediately turned to the panel and ordered it to show him Azathoth's location. Charlotte looked and saw that the monster had not fled the city. But why had it returned again? And it was so close to him. But suddenly he realized that this was wrong. He was in a hospital, and he was so close. Charlotte jumped up and screamed. This is his home. He is in his home. Charlotte immediately ran home and noticed that the spider was still there. It started combing through all the rooms and wondered what happened to South. In an instant, he realized that Yug had been captured. On the other side, Yug came to her senses and asked where she was. Azathoth saw that she had come to her senses and replied that this was an auction place for monsters and humans. Charlotte looked at the map and decided to go save the South. But half an hour had already passed, and Azathoth had not moved, and he was very close to him. But suddenly everything changed, and the disappeared from the map. This seemed very strange to him, and now he realized that it would be impossible to track Azathoth at night. But at that moment, everything changed. Suddenly someone attacked him, and Charlotte managed to dodge and get away a long distance. The guy said this is their Star Cavalry's territory. Be they monsters or heroes, they will deal with the invaders without mercy. Charlotte realized that they were bandits who were kidnapping. The other warriors were standing on the roof, saying that another hero had come to deal with them. The guy who attacked Charlotte said that the female monsters and the women in the dungeon were bait released to lure them out. The warrior suddenly said that he didn't even know if there were other heroes nearby. He suggested capturing him and interrogating him. Charlotte thought that the monster woman they were talking about must be in the south. The timing worked out. He also wanted to ask them if they've seen a perverted monster nearby. The system suddenly reminded him that the weapon recovery mission would begin in 2 minutes. Charlotte realized that by accepting the weapon recovery mission, the indicators would return to their original F rank. And now he only had 2 minutes left. He had to finish this quickly. Yug was suffering at this time and could not free himself because of the restraining magic. And without male food, her body became too weak. She even wondered if she would be able to return to where her master lived. Azathoth asked her, "She is a monster, isn't she? Doesn't she want to go back to the dungeon?" Yug replied that she doesn't think like a normal monster. They, the Ling lizards, naturally rely on the essence of men. Right now, she simply instinctively chose a stronger man. Besides, human lairs are much better than monster caves, and the bottled wine there is very tasty. But suddenly the wall exploded right in front of them. Charlotte walked in and sighed when she saw that everything had been decided in 2 minutes. And if they had given him the keys earlier, there would have been no problem. Yug saw the owner and shouted to him. The system said that the weapon return time was activated. Tin let him spank someone on the ass until he makes a sound. And the mission countdown begins. Charlotte jumped on the guy and asked him to wake up, and asked him if he could make sounds, but the guy passed out. Charlotte said that he was completely unconscious and there was no need to hit him so hard. Azathoth turned to the brave hero and asked him to save her. Charlotte thought they were on the outskirts. Monsters could appear at any moment, and without power to the system, it was dangerous. So he decided to complete the mission first. Charlotte released Yug, told him to forgive him, and began spanking her bottom. Yug began screaming and asked his master what he was doing. Charlotte replied that in order for them to get out of this place safely, he needed to spank her ass. So don't let her resist. Azathoth realized that he was definitely a bad boy. All she had to do with this type of guy was flirt a little and he would fall for it. And she couldn't believe that he had come up with such an absurd excuse to take advantage of her. She lifted her leg and motioned for him to help her open it. And if he could save her, she wouldn't mind if he spanked her. She's ready to offer herself to him right now. Charlotte took off the shackles and let her go. Azathoth threw himself at him and said that he was a brave hero. They kidnapped her and tied her here by force. And she was so scared, and they said they would sell her to the goblins. And if the hero saved her, she would be his. Charlotte was not embarrassed and immediately slapped her bottom. He asked her if she was going to make a sound. The girl told him to try again. Charlotte suddenly thought about it, but the system said that the target had not made a sound. The host would freeze for 5 minutes, and the remaining time was 55 minutes. Charlotte suddenly lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Yug came up to him and asked how the owner was feeling. Charlotte replied that he was very uncomfortable now. He needed the essence and blood of their body. Otherwise, he would really fall and die. Yug asked the master why he was silent, but the light slowly faded before his eyes. And then Yug said that then she would consider him as agreeable. Yug started biting him and said she would start with his neck. The girl suddenly screamed that she was a shameless lizard. She dared to make a move while I didn't see. Let him go. The girl with the tail grabbed the south and said that no, he was her master, not hers. And besides, she came first. Azathoth got angry and realized that if it were daytime now, he would have spanked her already. But it was important for her to get the system back. No need to argue with her. Suddenly Charlotte saw the girl offering him a threesome. He immediately opened his eyes and jumped up. Charlotte felt that this woman was truly being held against her will. But why was she willingly doing this to him? Shadow watched all this and wondered if Azathoth really wanted this. The sensations in her body shared with her. The girl said that she hadn't played like that for a long time. Shadow couldn't hold back either and felt herself getting excited. Yug told her master to try to bend her fingers and press a little. Shadow at this time began to feel how her whole body was starting to go numb and goosebumps were running through it. Azathoth did not stop and continued to caress him. But Charlotte felt everything and asked her not to touch him. Chateau also felt that her hand felt as if it was holding on to something at that moment. But Charlotte suddenly felt the sensation of this grip. It seemed familiar to him. And now he felt that it was Azathoth. Azathoth at that moment wondered and was surprised why the guy's look at him had changed. Azathoth immediately removed her hand and realized the technique herself. She had used the same technique without even noticing it. Azathoth immediately shouted to Shothil and called her for help. Shothil did not waste time and came down to them from the roof. Yug turned around and said it was dangerous. She immediately turned into a lizard and asked her master to protect her. Azathoth was screaming at Shothil to save him and get out of here quickly. Charlotte realized that Azathoth had actually transformed into a woman to get closer to him. But luckily, he had found her. But now he can't use the system's capabilities. It can't keep up with him. The system suddenly turned on and said that the freezing time was over. Charlotte immediately came to her senses and said that he had escaped so quickly and decided to finish the mission first. When he had access to the system, then he would go after him. But in the future, when night falls, he must be careful of anyone who approaches him. The system has informed him that the mission to retrieve the weapon has already begun, and it is time to complete the mission. At this time, many people gathered in front of the gates of Zone Z. The guards informed the captain that he was here. Charlotte looked back and saw the vice president's secretary and Sirius standing in front of him. Sirius came up to him and said that Charlotte had deserted and was under arrest, and here was an arrest warrant, and he had to go with them. But Daisy stood up for him and told the captain to stop. She's the vice president's secretary. They searched Nye's dungeon and it was empty, which contradicts the accusation. And the process of canceling the warrant has already begun. They can't arrest him now. He has to attend the guild banquet later. Sirius got angry and said that he wasn't lying. Only captains of rank A and above can attend the banquet. And she claims to be the president's secretary. He is the president. And if she continues to cause trouble, he'll throw her into the interrogation room with him. Charlotte said to go and ask the president for permission and bring the cancellation notice to save him. He will definitely help. Can she do it in 20 minutes? Daisy replied that 10 minutes would be enough. Charlotte told the captain that he would make them apologize to her later and spank them harder. Right after that, they went to the interrogation room. Sirius asked the boy how his right arm was injured. Did he still remember? He bravely led his team into battle against the monster Nay. But in order to save himself, he attacked him from behind, giving Nay an opportunity, which led to the death of most of his team members. He sacrificed his right arm to save the lives of the remaining crew members. So let him now tell us whether a coward like him deserves life or death. Charlotte replied that he was a coward who ran away when confronted with an enemy. He certainly deserved to die like an animal. Sirius got angry when he said this and ordered the servant to bring the hammer here. Charlotte realized that 10 minutes had already passed. The secretary was due to arrive soon, but he still couldn't use the system. He would have to be patient for now. But suddenly he felt someone walking on his leg and, looking to the south, saying that he could not harm him. She absorbed some of his blood essence, and it restored some of her magical power. It was more than enough to withstand human torture. And when they got home, he would have to pay her back twice as much. Suddenly, Sirius grabbed the hammer and slammed it down on the table with all his might. Sirius told him to pick one of his fingers, and they would start with him. Or should he choose for himself? Suddenly the door opened, and some guy yelled at the captain that they had a problem. The president's secretary had arrived with a notice that the warrant for Charlotte had been canceled. Sirius stopped, picked up the paper, and said, "What about the cancellation notice?" The woman is actually the vice president's secretary. The boy asked the captain if he knew the president. Sirius replied that it was nonsense. How could an F-rank hero have connections with someone of the president's level? The boy asked the captain if he should be released. Sirius replied that torture was prohibited after receiving notice of a cancellation of the warrant. The boy asked, "Then will they let him go now?" Sirius answered that they won't let him go now, and let him bring him this notice in half an hour. He hasn't received the recall notice yet. I've never heard of it. Charlotte realized things were bad, and he needed to get out of it. Sirius was furious and said he had to pay for it today. The guy standing outside the door was telling the secretary that his captain hadn't come out yet, and he didn't have permission to come in. Daisy told him to fuck off. She would show him the summons herself. The guy replied that this was an interrogation room. She had no right to come and go as she pleased. Sirius didn't stop and brought the hammer down with all his might right on Charlotte's hand. But Charlotte, they said, was a force of magic, and this hammer did nothing to him, but on the contrary, the hammer cracked a little in his hand. Sirius picked up the hammer, looked at his hand in surprise, and thought, what happened? No broken bones, no blood, and not a single scratch on the skin. Daisy yelled at the guy to get out of the way. The guy said she had no right to come in, but then Zam came in and asked if he had the right to come in. They were surprised that Zam came to the interrogation room himself. No one bothered him, and he opened the door with both feet and walked in. Sirius was very surprised and asked in amazement, was it really Zam who came? He asked the president, why is he here? The deputy replied that this was a notice of cancellation of the arrest warrant for Charlotte. Let him go immediately. Sirius dropped the hammer and said he would do it immediately. The deputy approached him, and said that as a captain he had abused his power and tortured a man. And if this case is investigated, then at the very least he will be stripped of his rank of captain. Sirius told Zam that he had not received notice of the cancellation of the warrant. That's why he took action. His comrades could be witnesses. And he turned to his men and told them to say something too. But the boys were silent and did not want to offend the president. Zam looked up and didn't say a word. Sirius smelled the heat and told Zam he didn't need it. And at that moment, Sirius realized that he could only turn to his brother for help. But then Charlotte came up and said he could confirm that he had not seen the notice of revocation of the warrant earlier. Charlotte said she would not pursue the case for which he had arrested him. However, they must bow and apologize to the secretary. Charlotte took the stick and heard the others apologizing to the secretary. Charlotte waved her stick and said that they were rude to such a beautiful secretary. And that was disrespectful. Daisy watched all this and heard them all screaming. The warriors began to say one after another that they were wrong. The system informed the boy that the mission to retrieve the weapon was complete. Charlotte threw the stick and said that everything was finally over. The matter between them and the secretary was over. Sirius asked the boy what he meant. Charlotte took his hand and told him to let them settle this matter now. Sirius asked Charlotte if he hadn't said he wasn't going to get him arrested. The boy replied that he was talking about hitting him on the arm. Sirius started screaming that he was sorry, and he was wrong, and he was wrong, and he was sorry. Charlotte agreed, grabbed his arm, and broke it right in front of everyone. Sirius screamed in pain and felt his bone break. The warriors surrounded him from all sides and shouted to the captain. Charlotte left and said that she forgave him. Zam tells the boy that Daisy is now accompanying them to the banquet. First, he must meet the envoy from the Holy Territory. After that, he will come for him. Charlotte asked, "Holy Territory?" Zam replied that they founded a church with a mission to eradicate all evil thoughts in the world. They have unrivaled cleansing magic. They are able to remove any toxins from a body. And if he wants to destroy evil thoughts, then first he needs to thoroughly understand them. After that, they went straight to the banquet in honor of the hall. The deputy took on all the duties and walked with the queen of this ball. The guard who followed them was quite surprised to see the holy of holies of the throne. And it turns out that her outfit is so revealing. The boy asked if it was not too indecent for a saint to dress like that. The boy standing next to him replied that he thought so too. Suddenly, the saint stopped and looked at them. The boy was very scared and thought that she heard them. The saint said that their teaching is to eradicate all evil thoughts in the world. To eradicate evil thoughts, they must fully understand them. And that's why people on their holy throne dress like that. And let them not look at them with their dirty eyes. After these words, Zam lost his temper and ordered the guards to hit them 10 times. The guys told him that they didn't mean it, and that he should spare them. But the saint said that it was not necessary. If they punished them for this, then everyone here should be punished, except the vice president. The deputy was suddenly surprised and asked how he was different from them. The saint replied that his mind was in turmoil, but his body was almost unresponsive. And unlike the others who reacted violently and had a burst of angry thoughts, Zam said that he is a man with a pure heart, so he has self-control. But suddenly the guys standing nearby started talking about how they had heard somewhere that the vice president was impotent. The boys suddenly appeared in front of the castle. Daisy said it seemed right. It was the site of the Thanksgiving banquet. Charlotte asked if they were coming. Charlotte asked if the Holy Sea's cleansing magic was strong. Daisy replied that of course it was. It was their unique magic. From lost limbs, illnesses, and severe poisoning, they can cure everything. Was a hero a risky profession, and the hero guilds of all regions wanted to cooperate with them, but they were all rejected. But suddenly Charlotte imagined him begging the saint to save him. They don't want to use magic on others easily. Their reason is evil thoughts. But Charlotte thought that maybe they could get rid of the poison. He should at least try. Daisy inserted her card, and the system reported that the identity check had been confirmed. The servant at the door let them in and wished them a good evening. Charlotte was very surprised and asked why they were there. Daisy replied that she didn't know exactly. The deputy approached them and said that the saint was testing their ability to cooperate with the Holy See. And if someone passes the test, cooperation is possible. Their hero guild from Zone Z will definitely gain a huge amount of power. Suddenly, the saint came out and said that this was the treasure of their holy throne, the veil of the Sacred Heart. And once they internally renounce, the level of evil thoughts in their heart will be revealed by the gem. And the ability to cooperate with their holy throne depended on the purity of their hearts. None of the hero guilds in other regions had gone through this. Those present asked how to measure the purity of the heart. What is inside? Maybe some kind of mechanism? The saint replied that if they wanted to know, they should go inside and try. Suddenly, Team 7 Captain Logan stepped forward and said he would try. He had a pure heart. He had never done anything shameful. Logan walked inside and was suddenly very surprised. He saw a Catwoman in front of him. He immediately realized that this was his weakness, and it was magnificent. Logan looked at all this and blushed deeply. Catwoman came very close to him and held his clothes in her teeth. Logan saw her take the initiative to approach him, but suddenly he couldn't hold back and his nose started bleeding. Logan looked at her in amazement and said that she was truly, simply gorgeous, and he gestured for her to let him look at her. Catwoman asked him what he would like to pet. Logan didn't blush and replied, "One wonderful place." Catwoman told him to stop and said it was disgusting. She just gave him a snap and he flew out of the box. Everyone was surprised when they saw him fly out of there like a cork. Logan started screaming that she had broken his chin. The box system immediately showed that the level of evil thoughts was 88%. Definitely a person with a dirty heart. One of the guys started yelling at them to look at Captain Logan's evil thought level on the crystal at 88%. And whatever was inside, it must be very dangerous. But then Team 6 Captain Owen stepped in and said he would go and check. It didn't matter what was inside. He could handle it. But a few minutes later, he also came out of the box with blood on his face, without even expecting it. The guys came up to him and said he was bleeding heavily. "Are you sure he's okay?" Owen said yes. The boys asked the captain what he saw, and the box system showed that he took 92%. The saint saw a crowd of people, but each time she was sad. She realized that she was only wasting her time. There was no one under 80 years old here. They were all dirty inside, and no one here could pass the test. Suddenly Charlotte came out and said that it was his turn to try. Sam was already glad that he was the last one. Charlotte entered the box and was very surprised by what she saw. He could not believe that such a thing was possible. The cat girl started wagging her tail in front of him and asked if he wanted it. Charlotte put her hand on her face and pushed her. Charlotte said it was another woman who was actively approaching him, and he should be more careful. Very likely. Azathoth again. Catwoman said that this is the first man who actively rejected her. The saint was suddenly and unexpectedly surprised. She saw 0% on the chart and said that this had never happened before. People started screaming that someone could actually do it, calm as water. Charlotte thought, before confirming her identity, that he had better be careful. Suddenly, the system reported that it was already activated. The system asked him if he wanted to lock the enemy in, and now he could use Azathoth's Spear of Oblivion. Charlotte realized that he had only one chance. If he made a mistake in the fight with Azat, he would be doomed. Catwoman was surprised that for the first time a man rejected her, and he even pushed her away, but he stares at her body. But there is no lust in his gaze. Charlotte thought, at that moment, that he should pay more attention to her movements, but they really are huge. But Catwoman saw that this guy was a little hostile to her. This was even more annoying than guys lusting after her body. But this is even more humiliation of her beauty. Now she must find a way to make his heart beat. Meanwhile, Charlotte thought that he should find an opportunity to test whether she had any masculine traits. Catwoman told him not to look at her with such hostility. A warm, gentle embrace would help them connect. Charlotte saw her running to hug him, but he suddenly dodged and the cat just hung in the air. Catwoman was rejected again. She pounced on him again and screamed at him not to be shy. Charlotte suddenly slipped and fell. But the Catwoman wanted him to feel her tenderness, and his heart would surely flutter. Charlotte suddenly notices that he has the right angle. He could do it now if there was anything to it. Charlotte suddenly jumped up right in front of her and realized that he only had to turn his eyes a little and he would see. The cat girl noticed that even when he dodges, he still stares at her chest. Charlotte suddenly became very surprised and thought, why is this happening? He just can't take his eyes off them. Really great. The cat girl asked him why. He was obviously staring at her chest like everyone else, and his body reacted too. But there is no trace of evil thoughts in his heart. He is so calm. Why is this happening? Charlotte replied that because he is an honest man. He does not have any dirty thoughts about her body. And when they are born into this world, it is the breast that supplies them with milk and nutrients, allowing them to grow strong and survive. So that's why he looks at her chest with a heart full of gratitude. Catwoman was surprised by his words and saw a blinding light. She realized that he was exactly that kind of person, and there was a huge gap between them. And now Charlotte appeared before her as some important and honest man. Catgirl said he passed the test. Now he can go. Charlotte was very surprised that she let him go, and it seems she really is not Azathoth. Charlotte turned and said goodbye to her. He walked out to the audience and showed them his pride. Catwoman said that her training probably wasn't enough. She needed to work harder. The guys immediately said that the level of his evil thoughts is 0%, and this is simply absurd. But there's no way a man wouldn't be interested in a Catwoman. Or maybe that crystal is broken. The saint said that for the first time she saw a person with an absolutely pure heart. Charlotte replied that he had already gone through the rest. Could they use cleansing magic on him to remove the poison? The saint replied, of course. She immediately turned to everyone and ordered them to leave the room immediately. Left alone, Saint said she was going to detox him now. Let him lie down. Charlotte was surprised and asked if there was anything else he needed to do. Saint told him not to move. The saint said that their cleansing magic was given to them by their holy appearance. Each person has a specific part of the body that triggers the magic, and her cleansing magic is on her feet, and she uses her feet to do her magic. The saint said that while she was using the purifying magic, he should not harbor any evil thoughts. Otherwise, the mania would gradually lose its power. Charlotte asked if these evil thoughts were only his. The saint replied that they were. From the moment she became a saint of the Holy See, her desire disappeared. Now that he is completely relaxed, she will move from top to bottom. She needs this to assess his physical condition, and so that she could heal his body even more. Suddenly, the saint placed her foot on his hand where the finger was cut off and began to move it slowly. Charlotte realized she wanted to use her leg to move his hand, and he decided to understand. But the saint told him not to move, she would do it. Otherwise, it would affect her ability to cast spells. But suddenly she said that she felt the chair was too tight and asked him to let her use his face for support. She stepped on his face with all her weight and said she was going to start, and Charlotte held out her hand to him, but she stepped on him and pinned him to the ground. Suddenly Charlotte opened her eyes and felt that he was in the water. He began to ask where he was. Turning around, he saw a leg approaching him. He tried to stop it. It was very heavy. Meanwhile, in the real world, Saint lifted her leg from his hand and told him to relax, not to fight her leg. After all, it was part of the healing process. She uses her cleansing magic to project his consciousness into part of his body. She pulls him out of the water, and his fingers are fine. Charlotte was surprised and saw her leg in front of her again, but this time he caught it. The saint told him that she would pull it out in one go. Charlotte started screaming that something was entangling him underwater. The saint said it was poison in his body. Venom tried to completely envelop him, but Saint screamed at him to grab her leg and not let go. Charlotte couldn't just grab it with her hands and decided to bite it with her teeth. He thought he had to rip it apart and expose them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to grab it properly. Saint said he tore her apart. How rude of him. Charlotte immediately squeezed between her two fingers and squeezed tightly. Charlotte saw that although she held him tightly, he did not feel any pain. On the contrary, he felt very comfortable, and he felt that his finger was warm. A few minutes later, the saint pulled him out of the water safe and sound. In real life, Charlotte's finger reappeared and was as good as new, as if it had always been there. Charlotte looked at him and said the finger was working. Saint told him she felt like there was some residue left, and he should take off his shoe. Charlotte took off her shoe and showed her big toe, and Saint immediately saw that the same thing was on his foot. The saint performed the ritual and said that the limbs were restored. And Charlotte realized that the magic of purification was amazing. The saint turned around and said that she needed to change direction now. She had found the location of the poison in his body. They had to work together to get it out of his system. Now, let him be still and lie on his back. She put her foot in front of his face, and Charlotte winced and thought, "What is this?" The saint told the boy that he needed to take it off. All he had to do was bring the poison to the surface, and it would disappear, and his body would be cleansed. Charlotte replied that he couldn't breathe underwater. Saint told him not to panic. He will be fine that way, and she will help him wash away all the poison, constantly increasing his strength. Charlotte suddenly said that he is getting bigger. Charlotte asked in surprise, "Is it poison in his body?" But Saint wondered at the moment of the process. Why does her body feel something strange? But suddenly something indescribable happened. Venom grabbed the guy again. Charlotte said that they push him away. The saint said that this water symbolizes his body consciousness. And while he is underwater, she needs to use second-level purification magic to create a shield around him. Let him try to break through these poisons. Maybe it will resonate with his own magic. Charlotte told her to hurry. He was confused enough. Saint said she started, but suddenly the system said the target was locked. She suddenly realized that her body felt strange. Charlotte suddenly screamed that the poisons were tearing. The saint said that the shield was in place. Let him swim and try. Charlotte comes down and screams that it works. The shield breaks through the poisons. In this way, he can get closer to the source of the poisons faster. After a while, Charlotte said why he hadn't come any closer yet. Having swum such a long distance, he should have reached it by now. The saint told him that he could not use real distances to estimate distance in the body consciousness. It seemed close, but in reality it was far. She realized that to maintain this shield, she would have to constantly rub it. It would be very tiring, but she feels a sense of joy spreading through her legs. And it's very strange. Charlotte swam down and suddenly started screaming to Saint that her shield had cracked and water had gotten inside. The saint said that perhaps her cleansing magic is weaker, and impure thoughts appear. The saint told him if he wants to get rid of the poison, let him stop thinking dirty thoughts about her. Otherwise, the cleansing magic will stop working. Suddenly, the magic completely collapsed and the shield broke. Charlotte started screaming that he was suffocating. The saint realized that she needed to scrub harder to quickly restore her shield, and her cleansing magic would not fail. The system showed that her favor level was 67%. Charlotte couldn't stand it any longer and greedily gulped down the water. At that moment, he immediately came to his senses in the real world. Charlotte immediately turned to her, but Saint thought and realized that she needed to return the shield. And when she stepped on it, she really felt an inexplicable pleasure, and she wants to keep stepping on it. Charlotte kept shouting at her, but she couldn't hear him. But suddenly she came to her senses and asked the guy if he had already returned to reality. Charlotte replied that she seemed to have done it. Saint said that her treatment had failed. She wondered what had happened to her. Her heart was beating so fast now. But in reality, she feels so familiar with this feeling. And it is like impure thoughts. It is her impure thoughts that caused the purification magic to fail. She must not tell anyone about this. It concerns the dignity of the Holy See. The saint told the boy that his treatment was complete. Charlotte asked her if she could also remove the poison from his body. The saint replied that of course she could. There was no poison that the Holy See could not cure. But it will take a long time to heal. Once she finds a way to get to the source of the poisons, she will let him know, but she will still be able to heal the limbs of his body. Let her come to the Holy See at any time to find her. And her name is Lilia. Lily said that was all for today, and it was time for them to say goodbye. Charlotte was surprised and realized that it was really necessary to find Azathoth to get rid of the poison. Lily hid behind the corner immediately after leaving and felt that she was barely holding back. But her desire was gone. Why did she still feel it? But of course this is different, and it's amazing. Darren went to his brother at that time and told him that he couldn't handle such a small thing. Sirius told his brother that this time it was the vice president. Darren told him to shut up. He didn't want to hear any excuses. Darren threw a file into his hands and told him to take it. It was a map of the A-rank Shiite dungeon. He was leading the team there. Sirius was surprised and said that the boss is a SS-rank Shiite. He is only an A-rank. It is equivalent to sending him to his death. Darren said that the Shia dungeon has almost been conquered by the heroes from Area K. According to the information from the returning heroes, the Shia boss is seriously injured. Now, even an F-rank hero can defeat him. He intercepted and blocked this news in advance. And now he has a chance to use it and take the captain's post. Sirius was delighted and said that he understood everything and promised his brother that this time he would definitely succeed. But in reality, Azathoth found him first and drank his blood. He told Shia that after he drank his blood, his body would be restored. Shia suddenly jumped up and started shouting that he was completely reborn. He turned to Azathoth-san and said that he saved him again. But is there anything he can do to repay him? He doesn't want to be in debt. Azathoth replied that it was simple. Let him kill one person. Charlotte at that time opened the map and said that the monster had gone to such a distant place. The deputy told the boy that this time he had made a significant contribution. Their zone would cooperate with the holy species, and their strength had increased significantly. The deputy asked the guy if he had any wishes and asked him to let them know immediately. Charlotte asked Zam to give him the position of captain. Then he will have the right to choose which dungeon to go to. The deputy replied that there was no problem. Charlotte said that he was going home now to get ready. He would leave town at 8 o'clock in the evening, but he realized he had only 49 days. And now he couldn't waste any more time. The deputy asked, "Then is it urgent?" The deputy said that their guild is currently short-staffed. The promotion process to captain may not be completed by noon. Suddenly Daisy said she could help. She was familiar with the procedure and could do it before noon. Charlotte was surprised and asked, "Really?" Daisy said yes. He should consider it a gift for helping him with those guys. Charlotte came home and was happy to say that he was finally home. But when he opened the door, he saw Yug in front of him. The girl greeted him. South said that she cleaned the house and also finished all the food in the house. And now the house is spotless. And she is one of those maids that every man can find. And she dreams of being praised. Charlotte said to make it awesome, but at least she could save some food. South replied that it would be nice if she saved some for next time. Yug told her master that she was really useful and could stay there forever. Charlotte asked her if she wanted to go home. Yug was very surprised and asked, "Home?" But there is none, for there is only a lair for monsters, but not a home. Charlotte thought about it and said, "Sure, but she shouldn't tell anyone she was a monster. After all, this was a human city. Otherwise, they'd have problems." Yug told the host that she could rest easy. She was hiding very well. The system suddenly showed that the gratitude had reached 100%. But the system also showed that as you approached it, the increase in value doubled. Yug said that her work was now ready. But now it was the turn of the master. Charlotte was very surprised and asked, "What's the queue for?" Yug replied that she blocked several blows of his hammer in the dungeon, and he used up a lot of her magic, and he promised her that he would pay her back. Charlotte said that he had guessed right and would do it. Charlotte realized that by getting closer to her, she could take away his power, which would be very useful for the upcoming journeys. And he assumes that this is where it will end. Daisy was on the road at the time and said she would be arriving at Charlotte's house soon. At this time, Yugu took off all her clothes and said that the master's body was really fantastic. But South did not leave him alone and said that she could not restrain herself and really wanted to get closer to him. He immediately sank his teeth into his body and began to gain strength. But the system showed that his defense immediately increased. With each passing minute, he gained more and more strength and increased his capabilities for the next battle with the enemies. Charlotte didn't resist for long and broke free from her grip, saying that it hurt him a lot. South suddenly realized her mistake and replied that she was sorry. Yug said that for a moment she got too excited and forgot about self-control. But suddenly someone knocked on the door. Yug told the owner that someone had come see them. Charlotte replied that it was probably the secretary who was handing over the notice of his promotion. Charlotte told Yug to hide in the other room and sit there quietly for a while. Charlotte opened the door and said with surprise that Daisy had come in. He had just been in the shower, so he was late opening the door. Daisy said no problem. She had already completed the promotion process. Here was his captain's card and the promotion notice. Charlotte was surprised and thanked her for such a good job. But Daisy said that she had bought some fruit. She didn't know what he liked, so she had bought different fruits. Charlotte replied that it was great, and he just ran away from them after the performance and didn't even have time to eat. And if she didn't know about it, Daisy could bring more fruit next time. South stood behind the wall and listened, saying that it was a woman who came to see the master. Daisy told the boy that if he needed help in the future, he should just call her. But suddenly Yug came out and said that they both seemed to get along well. Daisy was surprised and asked who it was, and she was so tall. Charlotte was wondering at this point why South had come out and shown himself. And after a moment, she turned to the man. South said she was his good sister. "Isn't that so, dear brother?" Charlotte replied that it was true. It was so. Yug immediately asked her dear brother to kiss her. Charlotte told her that there was no need. Charlotte reached out to grab the fruit, but Daisy got angry at him and simply pulled the bag over herself. Daisy immediately went out the door and said goodbye to him. Yug told the master that she knew a little about transform magic. Charlotte thought hard and told her that they were going away and she would stay here alone and let her be as quiet as a mouse. Daisy was very unhappy with what was happening and, going outside, immediately threw the bag into the trash can. After that, Charlotte started to get dressed and told Yug that he had an important task for her. Let him turn into a human and go get food, but he shouldn't get caught. Yug told the master not to worry. He would easily complete the task assigned to her. Charlotte had already gotten dressed by this time and realized that now he had to find Azathoth. But when he went outside, he saw that there was fruit lying in front of the door. But he saw that Daisy had left a letter above the fruit. He picked it up and decided to read it and find out what was going on. On the way, the warriors said that the journey went smoothly. Not a single trap worked, and the next Captain Cyrus was really the best choice. Sirius started laughing and said that it was power from his source. They guys really hit the jackpot this time by following him. Sirius realized that with the map his brother had given him, this whole journey had been a walk in the park. And he saw on the map that there was a fork in the road ahead. He should take the left path. One of the warriors said that about 10 squads of A-rank heroes had come to the territory this year, but they had all failed to conquer it. They used their intelligence to defeat the boss. They will be furious when they find out. Sirius replied that there was nothing they could do. Sirius said that the guild rule is that the team that defeats the first boss gets all the resources. And if there is a leak, they have to live with it. At this time, the system informed the guy that he had killed the stone giant, and he received a map of the area. Charlotte said that he had shown to have grown considerably, and defeating an A-rank monster was now a piece of cake. He realized that all this was due to Yug. But looking at the map, he said that Azathoth had penetrated deep into the dungeon and reached the boss. The team suddenly heard a rustling in the bushes. Sirius ordered everyone to be vigilant, and to the left of them, something was coming towards them. At that moment, Charlotte came out of the bushes, and Sirius was surprised to learn that this was the guy who hit him with a hammer and broke his arms. Sirius wondered what the hell he was doing here. Was he here to snatch victory from him? Sirius asked the boy what happened and what he was doing here. Charlotte replied something like what he was doing, hunting monsters. Sirius asked him where the team was. Charlotte replied that he had come alone, and he was in a hurry, and they would definitely cross paths on the way. And Sirius realized that meeting him was luck, and conquers this A-rank dungeon alone. And Charlotte should know Bashia has already done it, and he's weakened. and this guy is even greedier than him, and he's taking all the credit. Sirius got angry and shouted for everyone to quickly follow him. The warriors responded that the order would be carried out. He realized that he could not allow him to find the weakened Shay first and take credit for it. Charlotte reached a certain point and gave the system a command to open the map and show him the way. The system said that the map is open and all the details will be here. And by pulling out this sword, the paths will change left and right. Let him use it to turn off or turn on the trap. Sirius also arrived and was surprised to see his brother's map showing him the way. He realized that there was a fork in the road before the entrance. The right path was a dead end, and the left path was the right one. He did not stop and ran. Sirius realized that this sword could not be pulled out, and his data, it seems, was not so good. And as soon as he went down the left path, he would seal it behind him, and all the laurels would go to someone other than the guy. But at that moment, everything changed. He approached the doors, and a real dragon appeared above them. The warriors were all scared and said that it was a dragon, and they think that someone released the dragon on purpose. Sirius was very surprised and thought, why is the dragon here? His brother's map and intelligence did not mention it. The dragon was very big and fierce, destroying everything in its path. And to get into the dungeon, it broke all the walls. Sirius shouted that the wall was falling and let the others go. At that moment, a warrior appeared, grabbed the dragon by the tail, and began to swing it as he wanted. The dragon could not cope with the warrior and lost him. The warrior made the dragon die with one blow. Sirius was also surprised that she took the dragon without hands. The dragon did not die and began to serve its master. Daphne asked the boys where they were from and what area. Sirius replied that they were from Area Z, and they were the team from Arena Z. Daphne asked them if they were here to subdue Shia too. Sirius couldn't help but answer that it was right. Daphne said that it seems that their district will not forgive any support from District Z, and he is trying to compete with her. Sirius realized that if he argued with her, it would definitely not end. He told her that no, they could cooperate. It would be an honor to fight by her side. Daphne said they wouldn't have that chance. She never cooperates with others. Only the weak rely on others. But Daphne also had her hearing aid nearby. And who asked if there was a hero nearby? Well, they got a dragon, and they're asking for help. Daphne tells the crew that they're a bunch of screamers when they see a dragon. If they're scared, they can go home. No need to cause trouble, and they can't be her rivals. When she returns, she won't want to see any of them, and let them consider this a warning. Daphne thought about the help she was being asked for and realized it wasn't that far away. She picked up speed and flew into the air. Charlotte was surprised to see her because she could fly. Maybe he would have such ability in the future. He would be very happy about it. Sirius took advantage of this moment and realized that this was the perfect opportunity. And before this woman returned, he would find Boss Shia and finish the job. And with this card, he would definitely be able to do it. Charlotte saw them go inside, and he found it very suspicious. Inside, Sirius was telling everyone to be careful because there was a lot of technology there. He immediately started smashing everything and embarrassed everyone. The mechanism immediately worked, and a large cube descended behind them, which surprised them. Sirius said that they had already sealed the place, and all the credit would definitely go to them. The warriors began to shout the captain's name and cheer that they had done it. Charlotte had been standing in front of the sword the entire time, and the system showed that his life force was falling. And at the last moment, he pulled out the sword. The dungeon suddenly began to move in different directions. The warrior asked, "Is this an earthquake?" The system showed Charlotte that he had a new ability. He was happy and said that now he himself would go the right way. Sirius said that the people of the region have already cleared out all the monsters on the way to the boss, and they should arrive soon. As for the monsters on the other road, that's unknown. There are more wild wolves with B-rank obsidian claws, and Charlotte went alone, and he's definitely dead at this point. Sirius started laughing and asked the boys if they thought he could compete with them. He really was overestimating himself, and they had lost enough time. He suggested moving faster. They were already one step ahead. Suddenly, the warriors saw someone and turned to the captain. They asked him to look ahead. Sirius asked if it was a wolf. Sirius didn't understand how this happened and asked where they were going. After all, there shouldn't be a single monster on the map. The wolves were very bloodthirsty and immediately pounced on their victims. Sirius said that they were coming for them. Everyone prepare for battle. In Boss Shia's room, Azathoth was enjoying himself and lying on the sofa. He said that he was already tired, and she had never seen a monster bleed so much. And she told SHI not to let him down. Shia said he feels like his body is different than it was before. He has a constant flow of energy coming out of his body. Shadil asked Azathoth if Shia could really kill a man. Azathoth replied that Shia was definitely superior to that man in strength alone. Shadil said that this man seemed to increase his strength during the battle. Azathoth said that this was not happening this time. All the monsters in this dungeon, they're all humans. Charlotte suddenly found herself trapped and also met a pack of wolves. He said that he had so much magic power after he was exhausted, and he pulled out a sword and decided to try it now. The system told the guy that hitting certain points with this sword could activate mechanisms. Charlotte thought about it and decided that this dungeon would be his tool. And their skins are very strong, and they are charged with energy. Charlotte wasted no time and, thrusting her sword into the ground, released a bunch of arrows, aiming them at the wolves. Charlotte realized that these wolves were definitely stronger than him. He started chopping down everyone in his path and told them to rest. At some point, he got distracted, and one of the wolves attacked him with teeth, but Charlotte did not stop and ripped open his stomach. Sirius was also fighting the wolves at this time and shouting at them all to get back. Like cowards, they all started running from the battlefield and saving their lives. But when they saw the exit in front of them, they ran, but suddenly the cube fell in front of them and blocked their way. The guy started to panic and said that now they are in big trouble. Sirius turned around and said that wolves were chasing them, and he ordered the boys to go and stop the wolves. While he's here, look at the map and find a way for them to open the door. One of the warriors organized a defense and asked the captain to quickly find a way out. They won't be able to hold them off for long. Sirius opened the map and was surprised because this map only showed the mechanisms that seal the gates. There was no mechanism to open the gates. Charlotte was also not given peace. Wolves rushed at him from all sides, but he handled his sword perfectly. In an instant, 2 wolves pounced on him. Charlotte decided not to take any risks and moved away. Looking to the side, he saw that there was some kind of button there. He didn't think long and inserted his sword into the mechanism. The mechanism immediately worked in the blink of an eye, and a cube descended right in front of their heads, pinning the wolves in place. Sirius also tried to find a way out of this dungeon, but the wolves did not stop pursuing him, and the defense was already at its limit. The warriors turned around and saw that the gates had opened. They shouted to the captain that the gates had opened. Sirius thought, how could they open by themselves? Sirius didn't think long, stood up, and ran as fast as he could towards the exit. The wolf caught up with him and grabbed him by the leg. Charlotte was very pleased with herself because he had solved the problem in one go and two, and it was an easy solution for him. But Sirius was still struggling with the wolf and screaming that his leg was badly injured. The wolf didn't survive either and died on the spot. Charlotte was on her way and said that this sword was pretty good. At one point, he hit a dead end, and the system told him to turn right. Charlotte was merciless to her enemies and left behind a pile of dead wolves. They were all dead. The warrior told the captain that his leg was very badly injured, and whether it was worth continuing the journey. It seemed to him that the monsters here were unusually strong. Should they retreat and rest a little? Sirius replied that there would be no retreat, and Charlotte was already ahead of them. If he found Shia, they were in trouble. But Sirius realized that he had a map, and if he did not complete the task, his brother would certainly kill him. They came across dead wolves along the way, and the structure of the road completely corresponds to the map. And this is the right way, and the map was drawn backwards. And now he realized that his brother had almost killed him. The warrior stopped and said that there was another fork in the road. He asked the captain where they should go so as not to waste time. Sirius looked and saw that the map showed the right way. He took command and ordered them to take the left path. It would be shorter and faster. The system continued to help Charlotte get to her destination. A few minutes later, she said, the guy arrived at the boss's room. Charlotte suddenly became thoughtful and wondered why Boss Shia was standing outside. Shia told the boy that in order for him to enter the scepter bunker, he must have some kind of ability. Charlotte raised her sword above her head and said that Azathoth must be inside this house. Shay said that his goddess Azathoth will take this guy's head. Charlotte was surprised and asked in surprise, "Goddess?" Charlotte asked him if he thought Azathoth was a woman. Shia replied that the goddess Azathoth had light skin and weak residual fragments. But if she was not a woman, then who was she, a man? Charlotte didn't think long. He saw the mechanism next to him and immediately inserted his blade into it to make it work. Charlotte said that whatever they thought or did, he would praise them for it. Immediately after that, the mechanism worked. But Shia was not afraid and froze, ready to meet the huge axe flying towards him. But even the axe had no effect on him, and Shia easily swung his sword and broke the axe into several pieces. Charlotte was surprised and told Shia that he didn't even need a weapon to deal with the traps. Shia didn't waste any time and immediately attacked the guy with his strong attacks, and told the guy to tell him that Azathoth is a goddess. And he realized that this was disrespect for the heroes and an insult to him. Let him now prepare for death. Charlotte was surprised that Shia ran up to him so quickly, but he wasn't afraid and raised his sword to defend himself. Shia said that the boy's sword was on its way to another world. Charlotte got very angry and saw his sword break. Charlotte said it was a hard blow, but it was good, and now it was his turn to strike back. Charlotte used a fast kick to the body, but he went for a breakthrough, but at the last moment he turned and attacked from behind. Charlotte immediately attacked from behind, not even thinking about what would happen next. But Shia turned sharply and blocked his attack. Charlotte realized that his blow was blocked by him. Shia said that it was no surprise. It was his ability to create physical clones. Immediately after these words, he delivered a powerful blow with his sword to the guy. Charlotte did not expect this and used his blade to protect herself. Shia said that the goddess Azathoth also became stronger several times. And to kill him is so easy, and it's like giving away an insect. Charlotte held on until the end and felt that he was very strong. He is the strongest boss, and he's in shit for now. But suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a clone of Shia flying towards him from the other side. Charlotte moved and kicked the clone. But Charlotte couldn't stand the pressure and crashed into the wall. He realized that he expected this guy to have the ability to clone. There was a battle on the other side too, and the warrior shouted to Sirius that he had stopped everyone again. But the monster dealt with them very easily. In the final blow, he brought his hammer down on Sirius' body. He shouted to the others not to run away, because he could not move. Sirius shouted to his warriors to hold him, and for someone to help him get out of here. Suddenly, a strong and fast attack followed, which dealt with this monster. The monster shattered into tiny pieces after such strong and fast blows. Sirius stood motionless and prayed the whole time. Daphne stood in front of him and asked, "Is there someone calling for help?" Sirius was overjoyed when he saw her. Daphne asked him if they were the ones who had just called for help. Sirius replied that yes, it was them. The warriors standing behind him said that they were saved, and he thought he would die here. The second warrior said that Daphne had broken the stone giant in two. He even ran away so fast that he completely forgot about the captain. He should be fine. But Daphne didn't talk to him for long, but walked up to him and kicked him in the face. The soldiers saw this and shouted to the captain. And one of them said that it was all over, the captain was knocked out. Daphne looked at them and said, "What useless trash from Zone Z. Let them just look at themselves." Each of them claims to be brave heroes, but they're shaking with fear in front of monsters. It's funny, and they feel very sorry for them. And if it were up to him, Captain Sirius, the world would have been under the Demon Lord's rule long ago. And if he wanted to remain a brave hero, they would have to go back and train hard first. But what can they do let them see for themselves, otherwise it all looks more like a joke. And now immediately drive them out of here. The warriors replied that they would leave now. They would hurry and leave. Daphne said that according to intelligence, room 3055 should be on the South Bridge side, and the point is 37. Daphne said she would just take a shortcut. She gathered her strength and walked through the walls, destroying them before her. At this time, Charlotte was a little confused and saw that Shea's power was greater than his, and she needed to somehow solve this problem and kill him. Shea said that Lord Azathoth had already agreed with him. If he didn't kill him, she would marry him, and Azathoth fights for his beauty and love, and he strikes a mighty blow with his sword. Charlotte felt a strong pressure, but she stepped back a little so that the attack would not hurt him too much. He even wondered if there was a female monster in this place. But then suddenly the wall next to him collapsed. He looked at the girl and saw that it was Daphne. Daphne asked why there was another person from Zone Z there, and it looked like he was already badly injured, beaten by the monsters. Daphne said she would deal with this monster, and he doesn't need to throw his life away. Let him get out of here. Charlotte said that this boss is stronger than even him, and let her help him defeat this boss. Daphne was very surprised and asked, "Help him?" Charlotte answered, "To lock this goal forever." Daphne asked the boy if he was sane or he wouldn't have understood what she had just told him. Charlotte said he could handle these monsters, but Daphne told him to stay away from it. But suddenly the system reported that the target was captured. Otherwise, everything would get even worse. She did not stop and kissed him. The system immediately showed that the attack power had increased significantly, and the favorability had also increased to 77%. Daphne came to her senses and immediately retreated into the distance. She did not understand how this had happened. She had got really mad and asked if they were ignoring him and flirting while fighting him. Daphne also lost her temper and told the guy to get out of there. But she understood, and she felt very uneasy because she had never kissed anyone before. She had jumped up to them and asked, "Is he looking down on him?" But Daphne immediately stepped aside so that the attack would not hit her. Charlotte also managed to dodge, and the boss did not hit them. Charlotte didn't stop there and continued to fight him, immediately going on the attack. Shea was very surprised and noticed that this guy's strength had increased a little. Daphne had not yet come to her senses and kept thinking that he had suddenly kissed her too. But how could he cover her mouth? He also used his language. The system immediately showed that its favorability had increased to 85%. Charlotte continued her battle and a moment later shouted at Daphne to stop the cosmos. But something happened to Daphne and she felt her armor shatter into pieces. Charlotte didn't have time to save her, and the attack pierced the armor. Daphne looked at her armor and saw that it was completely destroyed and her chest was exposed. Charlotte stood up for her and said that it was very close, and the boss almost guessed with his attack. Shea looked at it and said that it was a very good reflex, but Charlotte did not stop her and continued to defend her. Daphne was still recovering and out of sorts, but favorability was at 88%. She began to feel an electric shock running through her body. Her body was paralyzed, but she could not move. The system kept showing that its favorability had increased to 92%. The attack power too. Shea realized that this guy's strength was really growing. He needed to finish him off and take him out quickly. Daphne was still under the influence of love and realized that it was bad, and this feeling spread to the lower part of her body. And her legs are losing strength. And it's so strange. She's never felt anything but this. And if this continues, her whole body will become even more rigid. But the system did not deceive and showed that the favorability was 97%. She realized that she did not want to fight in such a state. She tried to calm down and not think about it anymore. And she was here to defeat the monsters. She had to do everything she could to resist this numbness. But this guy's already helped her block 2 attacks, and she doesn't want to be a burden in the battle. Her strength is not enough, and they must unite to win. Daphne approached him and said that she would not be on his team, and not working with friends is her principle. She always killed monsters alone. Charlotte didn't expect such an answer and was very surprised. Daphne said that there were two monsters, one for each of them, and they would fight separately. And that way she can stick to her no cooperation. And they can defeat the monsters faster. And maybe he'll get something out of it, too. They stood in front of the monsters, and Charlotte said that together with her, they would surely be able to defeat these monsters. Daphne felt his hands and felt the warmth. And that sensational sound was back. And the favor was already 99%. But on the other hand, Azathoth was very ill, and her body was secreting strange fluids. She realized that this body without a heart was approaching its limit. Shato was surprised and told him that he was coughing up blood. Azathoth asked her if she hadn't taken care of this man. At that moment, Daphne remembered that in the past, she had simply pushed him away and told him to get lost. But now she offered him the following way to fight. And this is because she can defeat monsters quickly. Well, or for the reason that she has a strong desire to be closer to him, and it's all boiling inside her. Azathoth told Shadil that he didn't have long to live and let Shia deal with this man. And this is his bloody spirit. Let her take it and let the Shiites consume it in the future. And thus his body may be claimed by them. And once he gets his physical duplicate, he can deceive the system sign. But with Shia's body, he can only withstand its power for a few tens of seconds. And in these few seconds, he will take back his heart by force. He has no choice but to accept it. He must take the risk now. Shadil asked that the human body would die right here. Azathoth told her to stop worrying about this man. Shadil said that it only seems that way from the outside. In fact, she feels disgust towards this man. The battle was still going on, and Charlotte felt that some of his defenses had simply broken, and even his increased strength was not enough. A moment later, Shia pounced on them, but Daphne noticed it even faster, grabbed the guy, and screamed at him to be careful. Daphne used her defense and tried to repel the attack, saving Charlotte from death. Charlotte was very surprised and, looking at her chest, admired the fact that she was really beautiful. But the force of Shia's blow was so strong that Daphne couldn't even cope with it and threw them both against the wall. Daphne looked at the guy and felt those feelings come back to her. And the system immediately showed that the defense had increased to 1310 points. But Shia didn't stop and teamed up with his clone to make a final attack. Suddenly, Daphne saw that the boy was bleeding, and she must have accidentally given it to him. She jumped up and apologized, and it was an accident. Shia said that he would take 2 attacks, and they would both die in 1 hit. They both immediately turned their attack on the boys. The force of the attack was so great that it instantly destroyed everything behind it the moment it reached its final target. After this, Shia became happy and said that these two should be torn to pieces. But in the end, Daphne took control and protected them both from the apparent death. She stood in one position and did not move. Daphne looked at her armor and saw that there was nothing left of it, but it should have absorbed, but most of it was affected. Daphne asked the boy if he was okay. Charlotte replied that he was okay, just had a few broken ribs. Daphne tells the boy that he is not capable of defeating this boss, and if he survives the fight with him, Yoli will definitely die. And this battle is only for her. But she realized that by pushing him down, and Shia is very strong, and a desire to get closer to his body was born in her. She really wants to support him, but he will come close to her again and experience this feeling of dominance. Daphne said that her armor was broken by the last attack, but now she's really tense after that, and she doesn't want them to see her body. She has to use one hand to cover her breasts and keep them from being exposed, leaving only one hand to fight the monster. And in this situation, her fighting ability would be greatly reduced, and it would be better if he could hold her chest and cover it. Daphne was very surprised and did not understand why she was overcome by such thoughts. She should not have allowed her desires to control her. She realized that she was an S-rank brave man, a hero. Her body and mind had undergone countless training, but this couldn't be because she couldn't control her body now. But this was her own wish. Charlotte said he was in a lot of pain, and he needed to find a lily to heal after this. Daphne knew he was inside, and this guy is a very wavy person. That's right. And this feeling, this is not a desire. This is a duty to protect the weak. And protecting the weak does not hurt. She stretched out her hands to him and realized that it was her duty as a brave hero. She had to protect him. The system has shown that the favorability is 100%. And before the contact is closed, all statistics will be doubled. She hugged him again and held him close to her chest. But Shia and the others found them and approached with their swords. Shia immediately launched a devastating attack, but Daphne used her power and dodged along with her boyfriend. She began to realize that the sensation was even more intense than before, and she felt as if there was a fire burning inside her. She really is a brave hero. She must overcome these difficulties. Charlotte at this time felt his lips completely embrace her, and her body is so soft, and she's also very strong and tough. Daphne told him that she holds him and protects him, and so far he hasn't been hurt. And don't let him think about it too much. Charlotte said naturally. He and she are people with noble intentions. All the sacrifices necessary to defeat the monster. Shia looked at them and said that the strength had increased 4 times. And this is the limit of what his body can withstand. Daphne said that the monsters had split into 4. Charlotte at this time thought that for safety's sake he would remain in this position for a while longer. At this time, Shadil thought and remembered Azathoth's words about her drinking his blood, and this echoed in her body. And if he dies, then she will not die and will survive. Azathoth told Shadil that as soon as she gets her heart, she should return it to her, and then she will get a very big power, and she will be able to become one of her girls, and she will experience the highest joy. Now let him go and find Shia. Shadil turned around and immediately replied that she would go now. Azathoth thought that whenever she closed her eyes, she could look out through the bloody soul. Azathoth suddenly stopped her and asked what kind of fan she had. Shadil replied that she was not a battery of physical contact, so there was no need to do that. Azathoth said to Dream then, he is not in love with her. Only a powerful demon king deserves this privilege with her. And she's too nasty. She's just a good watchdog. So get her out of here. Shadil lowered her head and answered everything correctly. She realized that this guy was even more disgusting than that man. Daphne protected the boy with her powers and told the boy to hold her very tightly. Charlotte replied that he understood. She began to defend herself from the attacks and pressed the guy even closer to herself. The system immediately showed that the defense had strengthened, and with it all the other data. Charlotte felt like she could barely breathe at this point. He was surrounded by crushing pressure, but he was actually very soft. Daphne continued to fight the monsters and could not surrender to them, because if she did, they would die. But suddenly Doni felt that she couldn't move, and her energy was running out so quickly. She told her to kill herself to get Sato's love, and he sacrifices himself, and if he loses, it will be over immediately. Daphne turned around and saw that they were filled with great magic that would soon be directed at them. She immediately felt her magic go away. She shouted at them that they could both go to hell, but Charlotte had risen to level 25 in the meantime. But Charlotte didn't stop there and went out to fight the monster. She has said that the guy broke out of his hiding place. Charlotte said it was his turn now, and he immediately punched the monster in the stomach. Shia couldn't handle the attack, and it was so strong that he was sent flying back into the wall. Shia passed through several walls and landed right in front of Shadil's feet. She was shocked and did not expect it. Shadil asked Shia, was he hit and did he leave? Daphne told the guy that her power was almost completely depleted. Charlotte replied that everything was fine. Let it protect himself. The other clones suddenly released their ball and aimed it at the boys. Charlotte did not run away and stayed to protect Daphne. Charlotte shouted back at them to try his level 25 fist and repelled the clone's attack. Daphne was surprised and thought, how did his fist suddenly become so powerful? Shadil at this time looked at the monster and thought. Azathoth told her that it was a very good chance and allowed Shai to eat the blood soul. He asked her why she was standing like that. Shadow remembered that very mushroom and screamed that she never wanted to be his girlfriend. And he makes her feel so bad. She took this ball and smashed it against the wall so that Azathoth could no longer control her. After this, Azathoth was wounded and asked her how she dared to throw away her bloody soul and break it. Azathoth decided to act differently and broke her hand. Automatically, Shadow felt it too and shouted out her hand. She didn't have time to break the ball, and it fell out her hand. Azathoth automatically moved with her powers and caught the ball. She immediately put it into Shay's mouth. Shia suddenly started acting very strange. Charlotte looked at the clones and asked what was wrong with them. But when she turned around, she saw Azathoth behind her. But when he looked around, he saw so many clones. Charlotte asked, "How come there's so many Azathoths here?" Suddenly, he remembered that the system had marked his real body. He immediately opened the map and ordered the system to find Azathoth's location. Shatil looked and asked how this could happen. Azathoth was saying at this time that they only had minutes for everything, and they could suck everything out of his body. But Daphne didn't stop and immediately went to fight with her fists with Azathoth. But she was surprised when Azathoth stopped her. Azathoth waved her hand and said that they were already on their way, but the blow was so strong that she flew into a rock. Charlotte was very scared for her and screamed her name, but Daphne was exhausted and just lay there. The system told the boy that Azathoth's bark was oblivion, and he had one chance to activate it. Charlotte was surprised and asked what? He only has one chance to find his real body. Azathoth said that everything here is her, and everything in the system that can threaten her will immediately lose its power. Azathoth asked the boy if he wanted to fight him, but the system told the boy that he was invulnerable to all of Azathoth's attacks. Azathoth says that he knows about this, and he will never attack them or harm them. Instead, he just wants him to enjoy himself again. Azathoth caught him and held him by all his limbs. He said that Charlotte was in his arms now, and he had such a soft body without external force, and he would not be able to escape. But Azathoth said there was no pleasure in it, and the system couldn't stop him. Now he would rise and take out every last drop, and then he will reach an extreme level of pleasure and die. Charlotte starts screaming that he is not interested in them. He is only attracted to beautiful girls. Azathoth laughed and said that whether he was interested or not, his body would give him the true answer, and he was absolutely sure of it. Charlotte screamed that it was not so. Let him go immediately. But suddenly Shatil intervened in the fight and knocked Azathoth down. Azathoth got angry and yelled at her. Shatil told the boy that he could support this multiverse for a few more seconds, and don't let her grab him again. Charlotte let go of his hands and realized that he had finally managed to break free. And if he had a few seconds left, so be it. Azathoth asked Shatil why she was helping him, and if he died, she wouldn't survive either. He just didn't understand. Shatil replied that perhaps this was how she would repay the mushroom for its favor. Azathoth was surprised and asked in confusion, "A mushroom? What did she just say?" Shatil replied that she meant that she didn't want the man to die. Azathoth said that he would die later anyway. Shatil chose the moment and ordered the system to activate the ability. But it was too fast, and the attack happened. Azathoth was surprised that Shatil moved straight towards her. He wondered if someone had fallen on her. He looked and saw Shatil in front of him. Shatil was surprised and saw that she was still alive. Azathoth thought at that moment, why can't he feel her? She's completely out of her senses. She soon realized that this guy had set her free. But does he have time to worry about that right now? And she needs her heart back. Charlotte grabbed Shaya's weapon and immediately felt that it was very heavy. He couldn't even lift it with both hands. Azathoth asked him if he really thought that having a weapon would make a difference. Did he really think he could defeat him with it? He could crush him with his brute strength. And now they can finish what they started earlier. The system immediately showed that Charlotte was now using a quick kick to the body. Azathoth said that due to the system's influence, her attacks on him were ineffective. But he couldn't harm his body with his power alone. Charlotte replied that he never said he wanted to fight. He only wanted to kill him and drink his blood. Azathoth told him that if he thought he could get away with this move, he was wrong. She used the system and showed that the waiting time was 10 seconds, and he has no strength left anywhere, and he doesn't even have any friends. Let him now humbly return to his arms. Let him die in unprecedented bliss. But after a moment, she stopped and saw that the target was blocked. Charlotte started running away from him in different directions and did not let herself be caught. Azathoth thought that not even 10 seconds had passed. But how could he activate the system skills again? Charlotte said that each of his clones creates a real body for himself. But he can't cheat the system. And for the system, each clone treats him as a new person. But he can also lock his clones and constantly activate his fast body and destroy all his attacks. And if they want to catch him, he'll have to cancel the clones. Or they can keep playing this game. And he can keep playing it for a long time. But it seems to him that his time is about to end. Azathoth suddenly realized that he had not thought of this possibility, and there is no longer any way to catch him now. He wondered if he should run and find a new body or continue hunting the weak man. But he really is a monstrous god, and always will be. But the system is only on his side, and soon he will have the power to overcome it. And if this continues, sooner or later he will defeat it. Suddenly he jumped up and passed through the upper wall. Charlotte was surprised and thought that Azathoth was trying to escape. But Azathoth decided that he would use SII cloning to split his body into many smaller fragments. Looking up at the sky, he saw that Azathoth's body had exploded. Soon it happened that his particles scattered all over the world. The system showed the boy that a new quest had begun. He had to get a fragment of Azathoth to slow down the poison and increase his lifespan. But he needs to act very quickly and thoughtfully. After all, he has about 48 days and 6 hours left to live.